Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. Holy cow. Rich. Rich, are you already here? Hopefully I'm on this mic. If it's on the computer mic, it'll sound like garbage. Whew. I was running around for you guys. All right. So I wanted to talk about Tim sent me a email. Thank you, Tim. If you're with Affordable Door and Gate, hope everybody's doing well. He says good evening. He's down in the old Texas. I get a lot of people from California and Texas. Pretty cool. We just got somebody from New York. They went the wrong way though. They went through like the business somehow, and it went through the secretary, and then luckily Cap was a nice guy. He took care of it. I said, "Hey man," I said, "I'll handle it. I'll message him." He said, "I already handled it. It's a high lift, and some drums or something." So I don't know exactly what happened. All right, so let's see what we got going here. He says he's excited. It sounds like he's launching a garage door business. Wow. That's all I can say. Launching a garage door business is wow. Congratulations. It's exciting. Like I said, I hope I don't get too negative on it. We all got to make a living. And it's not that you can make a good living. There's no doubt about it. All right. So, planning, setting benchmarks. I've been encountered some challenges in pinpointing key COGS metrics. I don't know what that means. Particularly concerning labor, material costs relevant to revenue. Could I kindly ask your experience and insight on ideal percentages for labor and material cost and percentages of revenue that I should aim for in the industry? Your guidance would be invaluable in helping establish a solid foundation for my business. Thank you in advance considering my request. I look forward for your advice. So, Mr. Tim, for one, thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, I really appreciate it. You got to remember, like I said, not legal advice, not financial, anything, like I said, don't sue me, bro. I don't want to see you in court. But this has been kind of my experience. I have noticed in the garage door business, there is really no set anything. And let me give you an example. What I think is really disappointing to some degree. In the automotive industry, they got book time all the way through, right? From doing a water pump to doing an engine swap, you name it. There's a book time. In the garage door industry, in our industry, unfortunately, there's no book time. You know what I mean? There's some stuff that they do have a chart out there that'll kind of get you in the ballpark, but we all know that could be it. Sometimes it's less, it's more. So what I've done is I looked at it for per truck. That's how I kind of worked it out. And everybody's situation is different. Overhead is all different, right? I don't know what your electric bill is. I don't know what your property taxes are. I don't know how many employees, all that kind of stuff. But I see somewhere between like a, 10, 20, 30% kind of margin is what I see. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Sometimes if you have to do quick math, it's actually come pretty close. It seems extreme, but I've literally taken cost of things and just double it. I learned that from a lumberyard guy. And when I would start sitting down and I would start doing the math, things started adding up by the time I did fuel, the trips, the manpower, the labor, basically your overhead expenses and stuff like that. I think we got to around maybe about $1,000 to $1,400 per truck. I remember when I was running in that a little bit more, that's where we had to be to kind of cover everything and make a profit for the day, to cover kind of expenses, manpower, overhead, and things like that. So one thing though, I think this is great advice. I'm going to pat myself on the shoulder here. Is one thing I've learned. I wrote some notes down if I can see them at all. My little light will work. is if you're worried about it, the biggest thing is, when you go out there. I've had many discussions with my wife over this stuff, many late nights. And trust me, there's no perfect solution. It's just you gotta swing, and sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. But contingency. This was the first time I heard this from my Uncle Jack. I love my Uncle Jack. He's a great dude. And this was from an electrician that was doing a job for him, and they put contingency on there. What it is they will do a job for, let's say, just numbers, $10,000, and they might put on something there for $1,000 to $5,000 as a contingency. The reason they do that is because we all know there's unforeseen circumstances when you're doing certain jobs, right? Especially the revamps. You're tearing out a door, you're installing a door. So they put that in there because what I found out, obviously, is I'm the same way. You're always looking at the bottom, the bottom dollar, right? The bottom, that corner, that secret corner there. You're always, how much is this? Oh, geez, he's another $3,000 higher than the last guy. Not even interested. I'll go on to somebody else. I'll pick that up. And anyways, so a contingency can give you that buffer in the line above, or over to the side in the estimates that'll tell them, say, hey, look, obviously, if everything goes to plan, you're looking at X amount of dollars. But if we have to move something or something kind of goes awry, we kind of put this in here as a pad. I personally, what I like to do is I like to do not to exceed, because the way I look at it, and I think you have more merit. These are things that you just always have to ask the customer. You have to be persistent about it. I know it seems sometimes it gets hard, but it gets easier. You start getting thicker skin, but you got to ask the customer. And when you're there, it's always nice to ask the customer, say, are you, because it's almost like when you start doing it, you can kind of smell it. You can kind of smell it in there. You come across it and you go, are you getting bids for this? Or and they'll tell you, you're the first one, this and that. And so then you got to kind of lay it on to them, right? If you're the first one, you got to tell them, say, well, look here, and it just depends on what your business is doing right now. If you're super busy, if you're not busy, then you're hungry, you're desperate. So you tell them, you say, look, I'd really like to do this job. You know what I mean? I I just had to go to Home Depot, and the service is horrendous. There was a young kid there that was looking at me like, please save me. Please take me out of this place. The lady there, she's a part-timer. She's a nice old lady, but she didn't know what was going on. She didn't know how to use the phone. She was yelling. She was this, she was that. The manager had to come. The manager looks like she came from maybe like Madonna's sister or something. I don't know. So people want service. You know what I mean? So if you explain to them, say, hey, I'd really like to do this job, and you're upfront and you're sincere about it, you shake their hands, you look them in the eyes, those things are going to set in a lot right now. You showed up on time, you don't have to have all the flashy stuff, but you're dressed appropriately, and tell them, say, look, I'd like to do this job. I'd really appreciate it. And tell them, say, look, hey, if there's, if somebody comes in lower or something, would you let me know, and make sure you kind of make eye contact with them and say, well, you let me know. And I'll probably call you in a couple of days just to see where we're at, and even if you don't get the job, right, they say, well, we decided we want to, if you can get information, it's going to help you judge, because to be honest, out of all the years, 18 years I've done this, your numbers don't always marry up. I've had it where I've tried to do the numbers, right? And you go, okay, here's a cookie cutter. But if you got multiple doors there, you almost have to break it down. You almost have to do a discount, right? It doesn't work the same for this store, this store, this store. You normally got to break it down because you're already there. The tools are there. The tools are out. You got the guys are there. So the numbers get all just kind of fluffy, you know what I mean? And so you have to start looking at going, okay, what am I realistically going to be here? How long, and price accordingly to where you can make some money. And typically that's why I'm always a fan about, I always get a pen, get a pad of paper, whatever. I use bigger pads of paper and write it all down. I like to write it all down. I sit there and I go, okay, well, are we going to have to get a hotel room? what's gas going to be like? We're going to make this many trips, and factor in, we're probably going to have to go back there, even though whatever I factor in, 3 or 4 more service calls back because there's going to be something goofy. Um, I like my raw cost. Here's my material, here's my fuel, and that's my bottom, right? And then I go, okay, if another company came in, let's say they're going to do 10% because they really want to get in here, or I want to be at 20, because the guy will work with me, he's honest, he likes us, kind of thing. Mr. Jeff's in the house. How you doing? How you doing? Got canned first day on my new job. What? No new truck? And was targeted by a hostile environment. Oh my gosh, what? First day didn't get the iPad or new truck, just got sent down the road. What the heck, man? Man, that sucks too. It's a national company. Look out. Psh, dog, man. That's a bummer. Oh, hey, Rich, I forgot. You got a red one. Cheers. Bummer, dude. Bummer. They a no compete cause, and I signed it after closing down my business to work for them. What the heck? How did that work out? What is going on? That cause shouldn't be legal. Then if you don't uh, put a full week, I tell you what, man, if it was me, I'd be rolling. I just, I wouldn't be that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? I'd be like, see in court. You know what I mean? Like I said, put in your wife's name, put in your girlfriend's name, put your mom's name, dad's name, whatever. You know what I mean? You just work for them. You need to make a living. You're just a man and you're trying to make a living. This is what to say. I went to Lowe's. They sent me out in the Dodge 350 to get some carpet for the new utility bed truck. Toolboxes, 24, 350. When I get back, they talked about how slow I was. What? Compared to a youngster? Man, that sounds like some kind of racket. Man, that's not cool. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. All right, so I told you about contingency. I told you about not to exceed. The reason I love not to exceed is it gives you kind of an open playbook, right? Because you're never going to get your numbers 100% right. So I like the not to exceed because that way when somebody comes back and they go, oh, well, you were X amount of dollars, higher. And I go, oh, well, that's why I put on there not to exceed. You know what I mean? We probably would have shaved off $3,000. So I like to use that because when you do these estimates, you always get in this weird fudge factor, right? You're always kind of like, yeah, we can do it for this. And then you got your secretary, you got your wife, whoever, and they're sitting there going, no, no. And normally they're right. You can't. And you're sitting there going, I ain't going to get the job. I'm not going to get the job if, they got to get 2 other bids out there. And, these guys are just itching to get in here. So they're going to make you look bad. So that's why I always like to do the not to exceed, because that way, if they come in, I go, oh, well, I put a high price on there, but and you got to be a person that, what you should do is if you can, you should honor it. I learned that from a buddy of mine that's a builder, and it works really good. He actually, he says, man, you tell you what, you give people like $100, $500 back on a job. I mean, it just blows their mind because I mean, how many times? I mean, it's like every time you take your car in, every time you get something built, right? You're getting a bathroom remodeled, whatever, you're going to the store. It's always more, right? Well, we got bad news. Of course, it's going to be another 30K. I mean, so if you can, and obviously, if you're doing something that's groundwork or anything like that, like I do the fences and gates, stuff like that, obviously there's, unforeseen things that we put in there. If anything's unforeseen, we kind of word that in there. So, got a point. Jeff says 0.5 discount. What else? I got my notes here. Each cover overhead. Yeah. Ask about other guys. Oh, You can always ask, that's how I did the mall job when I did Yonkers. I went in there and the guy's like, yeah, he goes, I got to get like 3 estimates or something, right? I had no clue what I was doing. Absolutely no clue. I've never done a rolling shutter door. And so I just went in and I said, hey, I said, what, what the other guy come in? I'm just curious. And he's like, let's just say like basically 40. And I'm like, he's like, but you didn't hear that from me. And I'm like, all right. And that's when I went back and I did the math and I'm like, I'm still at like 16 or whatever, 17 with like the door and stuff. And I'm like, how am I going to get up to this? Like, I don't want to be, I don't want to get slaughtered, but I also don't want to leave too much on the table because what does he know that I don't know? And so, it was a great job because I marked it up to whatever 32 or something like that. Made good money, a lot of stress, a lot of stress. So you can always ask. That's why it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice because some people don't even understand it. Some people are like religious on it and they just, nope, give me your price. It's a sealed bid. I'm not showing you. I cannot do that, but it doesn't ever hurt to say, well, what the other guy, I'm just curious, came in at, and I always use it really politely. That's why I normally almost kind of want to be like the last guy sometimes, because otherwise what they'll do is they'll just hand that piece of paper over to the next guy and go, well, this is what he quoted to me. And then it's like, can you beat, I've had guys do that where it's like, customers, can you beat that? And it's like, let me look at it. Yeah, I mean, we can probably knock off $100, and then he's probably got 3 more guys coming that are going to still knock $100 off, and then he's going to get it for like pennies on the dollar. Oh, no. Oh yeah, like that's why I said no. Let the customer know that you really like to do the job. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a lot of jobs over that way. I actually had one. I remember I was bidding for a DPW, and the guy said, you were the middle bid. And he said, so you weren't the highest, you weren't the lowest, but he said, I really liked you. And I was like, cool. And so he used us, and then we had a relationship with him for till he retired, basically. Well, actually, now Cap's got him because the guy that took his spot is a friend of his. So we still do work for him. And so it's really cool. It's really cool. So you don't know how ever what it'll lead into. What does this say? It says, "His wife name is good idea. That works good on public bids." There's always a way. There's always a way. A lot of times the problem is like for us, this is how I look at it. So Tim, I'm kind of done with the whole price. Like I said, I hope that helps you out a little bit, but we're going to carry on with some other stuff. I know some people don't want to be in for it for 2 hours, which I totally understand. So with non-compete, the non-compete is very important because it basically it's not a guarantee. Nothing's a guarantee, right? And it's always like for me, for instance, I don't want to have to ever challenge any, I don't mind people it's when they abuse it, right? They'll, we got 0 likes on this, guys. Come on. We got to just get 1 tap. It's just free. But anyways, so the non-compete, it's basically so they're not abusing the trucks. They're not just going to go out and steal your customers. Just things that they can turn rogue on you real fast. I've had, I don't know, 3 or 4 guys. And the thing is that if they honestly wanted to do something, I would want to be their best friend in it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, dude, because I would help them so much. But it's when the problem is most of these people, what they do is they always start out bad. They always start stealing. They're taking your product. They're taking your customers. They're not doing what they should be doing. You know what I mean? And that's why I try to, I kind of paint the picture of the industry can be kind of sucky. You know what I mean? And if I was a young man starting out and I know what I know now, there would be no chance in hell I'd start a garage door business. No chance. No chance. Take that with a grain of salt though. I love the business, right? I love the garage doors. I love them. I love the, I love the customers. It was the employees that wrecked it for me. Not all of them. Like I said, right now, we got a great team. We got a great crew. I love them. We're blessed. I mean, it's just, they're wonderful people. But I didn't have the knowledge of knowing how to pick them out and what to look for and what to keep an eye on. And I always tell people this because I always look at it and I go, your time, there was so much blowback. I mean, I just pushed and pushed and pushed, and I kept thinking, I'm the failure, I'm the mess up. And you realize that it's like no matter what you do, you load the trucks at night. They come in the next day, they're like, who loaded my truck? They're all ticked, right? It's like, I did. So you have a nice morning. Is there a problem? And then they would never check it, right? They come back, yeah, you loaded my truck, you forgot the weather seal. Oh, what, you couldn't check the truck before you left? I mean, that's kind of what we're supposed to do, you know? I mean, I made it a lot easier for you. I just saved you 20, 30 minutes in the morning. I mean, you could have just went out there and with your coffee in your hand and, checked it out, and if you don't go out, if you do all the details and do all the sales and they come behind you, typically that fails because unfortunately the world we live in, people want to complain. And so, I mean, I remember all the time guys would come in the shop and it'd be like, so who detailed that or who looked at it or who estimated it? And it's like, I did, or, Mr. B did, or who. Oh, well, you know, they should have let me know that there was, 3-foot drops on the thing, and it's like, okay, well, you're supposed to have 2 sticks of residential angle and commercial on your truck. So what's up with that? Well, if I would have known, yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? Like you just, not all, but it's just, that's why I'm always saying, a good attitude goes a long ways. You know what I mean? Things happen. Things happen all the time. It just, that's business, right? But call me crazy. I just feel like once you're in it, there's, I call them variables. There's so many variables. It's just, it blows my mind. Blows my mind. And I see in other businesses, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know what the word is. I'm still looking for it, but it's whatever you do that you're at the end, right? You almost get the stiffy, you know what I mean? You almost get the shaft because you have to rely on the product to be good, right? No scratches, no dents, no failures, no missing parts. Then you got the customer that they're kind of opening their doors for you, right? I mean, they're letting you into their house, their home, their mansion, their castle. And you're trying to make this all perfect, right? And then if you kind of got employees in there too, right? And they go and they don't be nice, they're peeing in cups, they're pooping in the bushes, their cars dripping oil and they don't tell nobody, and it's leaves a stain on the driveway. They walk through the house, they didn't take their boots off, whatever, they leave mud everywhere. There's just a whole laundry list. And then you're trying to work with like profit margins, you know what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, all this stuff could be solved, right? Well, get them booties, right? For the boots, of course. Well, that costs money. And then are they going to wear them? You know what I mean? Well, it's mandatory. Okay. And then you're going to put so much on these guys that they're going to be like, okay, well, you got to pay me 50 or $100 an hour, I mean, to meet all these criteria. This is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? So things just start getting, everything kind of gets wonky, and and you look at it and go, this is what I got to charge, but you can't make what you want to charge in a sense, depending on your area. Um, some people probably can, like whatever that one guy is, he makes $2,300 on a spring change. He's killing it. I used to tell them I would give a 5% discount under reputable competition bid. Oh, that's cool. Only if they were doing exactly what we were going to do in the contract. Yeah, I had a builder. He used to call me out. We'd price these doors, and we used the Wayne Dalton, I think the TS 125. That's why this looked funny to me. I kept looking at it and I thought these doors were thicker or thinner. TS 150. Was it TS 125? I think it's TS 125. And anywho, the doors were thin. They're only like 3/4 inch thick, and I remember the guy was getting bids from my competitor, and my competitor is one of those guys is one of those companies that would they're like their goal is to get these type of customers. You know what I mean? Like they got, I don't know, 5, 6 locations. And what they'll do is they'll do these bigger jobs, these bigger commercial buildings, and then they'll like, from what I understand, they'll team up. So something that's going to take me, 3, 5, 6 days to do, right, with 2 or 3 guys, will take them like 2 days, right? They'll call these guys in, they'll get a schedule going, and they'll slam these doors out. Now, mind you, they don't do a very good job. They won't ask, they won't put no red steel up. They'll put their openers, they'll hang them with the jack shaft openers with perforated commercial angle. I've seen them when they're running, they're doing the whole shaky shake. Um, they go fast. But if you think about it, right, they're going to go and do these, and then they're probably going to be on it for maybe for who knows how long for service, right? But they already got their package deal, right? They already got their package, their money. We'll warranty it for a year. They can spray it with some oil. Who cares? The opener can wobble like that for whatever, 2, 3 years, 5 years before it starts blowing out bearings and starts, stuff's falling from the sky. You can get away with it with new stuff. But they can be very competitive with that kind of stuff. Well, anyways, their door was a little thicker, right? It was like, I don't even think the R value really changed, but it was thicker. Maybe it was one more point higher than ours or something. And I remember the guy would always give me crap. He's like, well, their door's thicker. And he's like, your prices are still higher. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, well, look this is what's going on, right? They want to get in your pockets. And so they're just giving one heck of a low bid. And so luckily with that certain builder, was a great person, still is a great person. And he would work with me. So what I'd have to do is I'd have to eat, ramen noodles on that one, but the rest of them we could do our normal percentages in a sense, make our normal numbers just where we felt comfortable. But he wasn't and that's how it works, right? A lot of people don't understand, when you're dealing with some of these people, right? They're not the owners, they're not the decision makers. So that's where you run into and I get it now because I'm a business owner, and it's like if I want a driveway done, right? Well, a guy that works for me, I'll say, hey, give me 3 bids, right? Because I don't want him using his buddy that his buddy's making bank off me. So I'll be like, give me 3 bids, right? Well, first thing I'm doing is looking at the numbers, and I might do some research, right? Asking for referrals, or hey, see some of their work, or check them out online or something. But that's, like I said, a lot of times how you can waste time. You gotta swing. Don't get me wrong, but I had somebody contact me today, and I was like, something about, I think it was for gate or something. And I was like, he says, did the phone call, did the voicemail, and I shot him a text. And I said, hey, look, send me some pictures. We'll see if we can help you. You know what I mean? Because they wanted something removed, or I don't know. Still figuring out the details. But what I'm saying is, it's not like I didn't do the yabba dabba do, right? Phone call. Okay, I'll drive out there. When I'm driving out there, bow, smash the truck up. Son of a, didn't even make nothing. Where at least I got to see it. The pictures, pictures just boom, man. You can tell if you even want to work for the customer. You can tell so many things by pictures. At least I can. Maybe you guys can't. Maybe people are blind. Wife's good name. Quit doing it though. What's up with that, Mr. Jeff? Wife owned business have the women owned businesses have the upper edge. Rich, I think there's something about that, right? My wife is amazing. She's like, she just doesn't flinch. She can do stuff I can't. She just is like, there's a caveat to it, right? A lot of times on bigger jobs, we had a lot of back and forth because when it kind of comes to this is just my opinion. Please don't beat me up, women. And when there's like a certain job, they can do that. They understand that. That's very math. I'm trying to say this. There's a math formula to it. But when you have multiple, it's like that's harder because you got to understand like everything, like the tools are already out. You're already on the job. You already know the anticipation. You know what the next day is going to bring. That's why I always kind of, in a nutshell, didn't like the residential because especially if you don't have no pictures. And I've like always been on the secretary to the wife to, pictures, 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 because I might already see something if they put it in Jobber, if they send me a picture and say, hey, this is what you're up against, I can go, whoa, nope, 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 nope. I already see what's going on here. No way in, Timbuktu I'm not even going to go out there. We're not even going to entertain this. This is way out of this ain't us. You know what I mean? And that door's shot. So have you already pre-qualified them and told them, looks like the door, you're going to probably need a new one, and listen to the customer, because they're going to tell you and go, oh no, I think it can just be banged out. Well, okay, that's not us. We're not doing that. I'm not putting my name on that. That's all liability. The neighborhood pictures, is there garbage in there? I've been in garages, like I said, they had the wall behind me stacked full of garbage, raw garbage, like they took out of the house. I'm like, hey, bud, my business partner at the time, I'm like, I don't think we're going to get paid off this job, and he's like, why is that? And he's just freaking going at it like hog wild, just getting her done, baby. We're going to the next job. And I'm like, what's up with all that garbage? Like, they don't have garbage service. Like, I mean, that's a lot of garbage, man. I get a couple bags, hey, I got that too. But like a wall, I mean, 50 some bags of garbage, raw garbage, and it stinks in here. Like, like, I don't think we're getting paid. And so we didn't get paid. We had to go back and take our springs. And I said, you know what? Let them take us to the old court land. Never did. Never did. What's my third year as a garage door tech? That's cool. That's cool, man. Is it I'll call you Mr. H. I don't know. I don't know if I can spell the old ski. Third year. Do you still doing you one man band, or you got some employees under you yet? Don't be embarrassed. You don't have to lie either. I mean, heck, when that was 3 years, did you say? Third year, I was like me and my business partner. That was it. I don't know when we started getting. I think it was when we started doing Lowe's. Is when we started getting like a secretary, because Lowe's paperwork was. It was just so much. This is a great question. That's why I love having you guys here. So AJ says, he says, what do you do to increase sales? That's a tough one. What do you do to increase sales? Well, my mind already goes to the whole, we're a fire extinguisher. So you got to be right up in the front with people. So you need to always be working on your reviews and, and try to do as much. Nobody knows algorithms, right? Nobody knows Facebook. Nobody knows Google. Nobody. They always tell you they do, or they're the expert, right? They want to get in your pocket, take your money, your credit card, your money. But nobody knows, right? But I know, if you can get a location, a commercial location, stuff like that, the algorithms pick up on that. Reviews are always helpful. Those are important. But, there's only so much time in the day. So to increase the sales, it's tough, because I did write this down and I was looking at it, and then I went, oh, I'm going to add a third one. And this kind of correlates to it. So I figured there's two options. You can either raise prices, which use that money, obviously put in advertising, blah, 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 or in the garage door business, you have to become more efficient. Get pictures, right? Have them send you pictures. Is it a job you want to do? You don't want to do it, okay. It's obviously a 16-foot wide door. It's an 18-foot wide door. You can count the squares in the front. Oh, I better bring a strut for an 18-foot wide door. The door's crooked. It's bent, the top panel, I better bring a torsion tube. All these little things. So you either got to become more efficient, right? You got to go to the job. You got to plan better. You got to write things down. You got to make yourself like that checklist. I have all the checklists for everything I do, and I always bring it with me. So when I'm there and I'm like, oh, next time I do this commercial job or whatever it is, I need a broom, or I need to bring the leaf blower, and it's on that checklist, right? So you can go through it, and maybe you don't want it. You're like, I don't need it for this job. There's the place sells leaf blowers. So they got plenty there. Or the other option, which I put as a third, is you got to get lower material prices. So you either got to buy in bulk, you got to buy from the retails, the stores, if you're kind of starting out. Like I said, I still go in there, right? Inflation is ridiculous on everything. And I still go in and I look at garage door openers all day long when I go into the box stores, Lowe's and Home Depot, right? And I look at them and I'm like, $179? Like, how the hell can they sell them so cheap? I'm like, come on, man. Like, can't we get some inflation on garage door openers? Please. Because like then I'll feel better when we sell ours. You know what I mean? When they're, four, six, $800 installs. Because these people like look at your cross side and they're like, well, I can go to the box store and I can get one for under $200. And you want to charge me, $800? And you're like, yeah, well, my my pricing through my vendor didn't go down. It went up. And our product's better. Better. I just need the damn door to go up and down. I don't care. So it just throws me still where I'm always like, I haven't seen the openers where I'm like, holy crap, they want $279 for an opener. Oh, which is good for us if you're buying them from the retail stores. So, but sales are tough, the stickers, yard sign. I still like the old school stuff. I'm yard sign guy. You know what I mean? Like, make sure you're putting stickers on the door. That's very important. It doesn't seem like it in the beginning, but it's for future business is very important. So stickers, got to get stickers on garage doors. Very important. Where am I at? Says AJ, get a Google My Business page. Websites are nice. And you got to remember that sometimes Google and YouTube, they're like brother sister. So, you might want to entertain, possibly it. I haven't seen it in the door business, by any means, like where it's like people are like, oh, I found you on, YouTube. So, uh, you know, at least locally, I get a lot of you guys, internationally and stuff that'll contact me and, ask questions about business and stuff like that, emails. But I know there is something there. You know what I mean? That they're big brother, little sister, whatever. They're married together. They're kind of under the same umbrella. So anything you can do. Obviously, the big thing with Google is Google likes stimulation. It likes pictures. It likes when you post things. I mean, you can do stuff on Facebook. Facebook is always good. When you do a job, post a picture on it. Hey, we're so lucky today. We were so blessed that we got to work at Joanne's place, whatever. She let us do her garage door. It looks great. She's really happy with it. People love that kind of stuff, and you're building excitement. You got to remember you're always trying to build excitement. Like look at me, look at me. There's a guy around town where the business is, and he literally uh he's posting stuff for like some home improvement, whatever. And he's always got it's like drywall. And I mean, but he's like in my face all the time. And I my hat's off to him. I like looking at it because I see the jobs that he's doing, and he's like, oh, we're just wrapping up another one, and I'm thinking, oh, that's cool. So um those are ways to do it. You can, at nighttime when I was doing the business, like I said, I didn't ever sleep. Sometimes I still don't, but I sit there and just constantly be, whatever, do whatever to find the algorithms I click. You know what I mean? Post stuff, on Facebook, even for sale or whatever, opener, install this, that. Hey, we'll sell you an opener. We can also install it. Right. And people ask you, I've landed a few that way. Um, and you just don't know, but you always got to be putting all these feelers out. Ben, what's up, Mr. Ben? I don't know if I emailed you back. I think, no, it was a comment. I commented on it. Ben's always a good dude. I always appreciate Ben. Jeff says, always loved owning a door business and seeing happy customers. Car trapped, yep, door fixed. Customer has a happy day. That's true. That's true. You know what I mean? There is something really it's very fascinating to do a garage door business. Even though I kind of bash it sometimes. It's very enjoyable. I love, like, for me, um I I really wouldn't want to build, like, frame a house and probably, do it from, foundation all the way up. Not that I couldn't, and there is value to it, but it's just you're always at the same job. The garage door stuff, you're always bouncing. I've seen the whole, base of the west side of Michigan um, with doing the business. I know all the back roads. I've seen so many things, parks, that I took in, I've taken the kids to because I've drove past it. It's a very enjoyable job. It's fun. It really is. And like I said, if you're starting out, it's really not bad. If you, it's it's not bad. It really isn't. Like I said, I'd still would do it over being in a factory, and like I said, when I looked at that kid tonight at Home Depot, and I was like, his face was just saying it. And I was like, yeah, I was there once. Like he was just like listening to somebody yell over here, and he's just like, just tell me what to do. And my surrounding is like pretty horrible. And I thought, yep, I've been there. And I almost wanted to just take him and say, come with me, Junior. I'm going to teach you so much, And but he started warming up to me. I had to get something loaded, and but I wanted to express to him, hey man, always make sure you're making eye contact. Be friendly. Put a smile on your face, even if it's acting. You know what I mean? Put a smile on your face. Hey, how are you? You know what I mean? Because you never know who you're dealing with. You know what I mean? And like for me, I'm like a recruiter. I'm sitting there looking and evaluating. And you might be working for me. And but that's why you like outgoing. You know what I mean? Good attitudes. That helps a lot. Only says my wife handles all of my. What does that say? Is it? I swear she's scheduled. Should have been a lawyer. Oh, disputes. Is it? Yeah. The wives are pretty good. Mine's. She's like I said. It's if you couldn't. It's tough if you don't have the support of a good. And I always used to get a lot of this in the business, right? I mean, all the time people would ask me, they'd be like, "I talked to some girl on the phone," and they always be like, "Is that your wife?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "That's my secretary." And occasionally she would jump in there if she had to for certain things. Like most time it was the keyboard ninjas. On the business side, people would, like I said, we had one that blew up on us, and the guy's telling us all day it's a 16. We go out there, it's 18. So we tell him it's going to be more money, and he like freaks out, like dude, it's 2 feet, bigger, wider. It's gonna be more. And he acted like he just blew us up on the old interweb. And I was like, come on, man. It's like I don't want to deal with this. Uh Southern LA clothes dryer vent into garage. Ooh. I've seen those a couple up here in Michigan. And it's weird when you go into the garage. It's always like it's got a weird aura to it, right? I don't know if it was so much smell or anything I noticed, but I always be like, "What the heck, man?" And I'd be like, "Something's going on in here. Like, why is everything so dusty?" And it's got that like lint. And you'd be like working on a door or something, and the top springs. And you're like, "What is this?" Like, I've never seen. And all of a sudden, you're like, "Oh, there it is. There's the vent dryer." And it's like, "Oh, I don't know. People do some weird stuff." What's up, Mr. Chad? Says hello. Hello. Okay. Oh, says call me Alex. Don't get mad. I might forget Alex. I remember Dan. I got Dan down for Hunter. I think it's the Hunter Adventures. I'm trying. All I need to do is just make a list, but I always bounce between different places. Oh, I'm just a sub getting commission. Sometimes I'm putting ads online to get my own leads, but nothing big. Company that I work for pretty good. Keep me busy. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. And that's why, sometimes you don't want to, don't bite the hand that feeds you. And, that's kind of the best thing. Like I said, I personally always loved working for Lowe's until their product changed, went from Wayne Dalton to, Right Built or whatever it was, but it's Amar slash Pella, they wanted to call it. And their labeling stunk. They wouldn't give you extra stuff. They wouldn't give you struts. They're like, "Oh, you need to provide that." And it was like, okay, well, I'm kind of running a garage door business here, and then we'd start running out of struts, because it's hard to manage everything. So all is the next day comes and you're, hey, I need a strut. Oh, okay. You grab one off shelf, whatever, throw it in the van. And the next thing you know, it's like, hey, I need a strut. And it's like, oh, we're out of struts. And it's like, dude, I'd rather you not pay me. They didn't pay you a lot of money for it either. It was like, we're talking $20 or something extra on these jobs, but they would never provide you with any angle iron, perforated angle iron. They wouldn't provide you any struts. and they give you one strut, right? Well, you know how this works, guys. I mean, on a 16 by 7 garage door, right? It really should have two struts, one in the middle, one on the top for the opener. Well, they give you one. So you're at the customers because now you're in out of struts and you're like doing the whole like, well, you bought from Lowe's, you're going to get what you're going to get, and unfortunately ran out today. So the strut's going on top for the opener because we have freezing. The door is going to eventually, it's going to start creasing eventually, 5, 10 years, 15 years later, depending on how much you use the door, it's going to get belly to it. It's going to crack. It's going to have a hard time going through. You're going to have a service call and somebody's going to tell you, well, we got to either add a strut or we need to replace the sections or put a new door in. And it's all because of a $20, $30 strut. And that really ticked me off because I just, I didn't like doing that, but it's just those days would come where it was like, we're out of struts. And Wayne Dalton was amazing by always sending us like two struts. They packaged, their weather seal would all be in the plastic. So it wouldn't get dirty. It was labeled. I loved how they labeled it. They used the colored stickers. So you knew when the truck came, right? Like when it came in that week, normally, let's say it was pink stickers, pink number 7. Well, if you were looking for something, you could normally go off what week something was put in. So then you'd be like, oh, that week was green number 10s. So just look for green stickers. And you go out there and look, oh, yeah, here's the customer's name on it. They had customer's name. Amar was horrible. It's like they backed up a truck and tipped it and it would just pile out into your building. And you're like, oh, what is this? So you were always guessing when you're pulling stuff. What a pain. Oh, what's Mr. doing is posting a fact a day about garage doors. Oh, dude, perfect. Chad, that's amazing. That's a great idea right there. Just educating people. You get in front of them, they see it. No, that's a great idea. What I started doing is posting a fact a day about garage doors. I wanted to do a post a day. No, that's awesome, man. That's a great idea. It's all about, and like I said, what you're doing is you're building that reputation where those people, because all of a sudden they're going to either go on there and try to do a search, because they're gonna be like, oh, who's that one guy? It's like this contractor, right? I think he mostly does like drywall and stuff, but he'll revamp a bathroom and that, and he could be even taking different pictures and different angles for all I know. Like he can't, but I mean, he'll just pound them out where it's like it seems like every 2 days to 3 or 4 days, it's like, boom, here's a picture. Oh, just knocking another one out. And I'm always like, dang, man, this guy hustles, man. This guy gets this crap done. Like, if I need something done, I'm calling this dude. You know what I mean? He's on it, and he might not even be on it. He could be just taking pictures from another job and just keep swapping them, um, but he's building excitement where I'm thinking to myself, hey, this guy's Johnny on the spot. So if I need something done, I'm calling this guy and he's posting it. So obviously he wants business. That's how people, that's why like road signs and stuff like that, the telephone signs, right? Sometimes like you see them with a lot of pressure washers, guys do it. And like boat wraps, we have up here, the shrink wraps, but and I've come across where you pull up and it's like, man, it's like, if I had a camper still, I don't have a camper, but I was thinking about wrapping it, I'm like, I should call that guy and get a price and see what it costs to wrap it. I'm calling that guy because it's right there. It's convenient. So you never know how people are going to correlate. They do say sometimes you got to see it like 2 or 3 times, and then they make I was gonna do billboards at one time, but the billboards are so expensive. And like I said, it's tough in our industry because you have to remember it's not like clothes shopping, it's not like kitchen cabinets, or revamping a kitchen where they're, it's most of the time, not always. I'd say probably, gosh, 80%, 90% of our customers, it's always a catastrophic failure. And then now it's a problem, right? I hardly ever get the people that's like, I mean, they might do it if they're like siding, residing a building or their house or whatever, but it's always the plow guy hit it. I hit it. I ran into the garage door. My spring broke. The door is crooked, right? And that's when you go there and it's like, this door is shot. I mean, your weather seal's all chewed up. The mice have been in here. It's got 3 panels that are split. Hey, by the time I do all this, you better, yeah, we've been thinking about it. That's how it normally correlates for us. It's not like I'm always going around like Beverly Hills or something, you know what I mean? and driving around, and people are like, "I'm so sick of looking. This door is 5 years old. It's disgusting. I want a new one." I that's not what we have. uh, it's not what you know. It's who you know. Could be true. I believe, that is true. I mean, it's amazing how much word of mouth, and that's why it's always very important. It can be a very double-edged sword, if um if you don't do good quality work, at a reasonable price or whatever the case may be. It's just you always have to learn your market. Um, and people, because like for me, I did this at one point. You know, I can I can still to this day, I can go out and I can drum up some work massively. Like I said, we typically don't have that problem. We have so much work we can't even handle it. So that's why it's always hard for me sometimes when people are like, "Oh, how do you drum?" Well, like I said, it was very tough. Like I said, it's somewhere in between, like, maybe 8 to 12 years before things started kind of, ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. The motor started working on, 4 cylinders. Now it's 5 cylinders. Now it's six, seven. Now we're in V8 mode. Um, so that's why it's really a very long term, and that's why sometimes I stress for some people starting, like, hey, is this, because like for me, right, there's almost like there's no turning around. I'm over 40. I'm not going to make a midlife, that's, kind of passion. You love it. You kind of stay in it, right? So if I was a young man, that's why I'm always like, hey, maybe like vending or something. I always talk about the vending machines because you could scale out where for us, right? I mean, for you even tuning in, right? As one person or even two people, we can only install so many, per day. It's just there's no, and now you have to get employees, you have to get more trucks, you have to. It's hard to scale. That's why what I've always done is I always look at it like I go, why is there so many auto zones? And I go, okay, they got a piece of property, they got a building, they distribute parts out, they have problems, right? The problem, the product's not good, whatever. But bring it back, bring it back. When you think about in the garage door business, right? If you do a bad job, you might go back there, golly, how many times? 2, 3, 5, 6 times until you fix it, right? And that whole time you probably aren't making no money, right? Because you're not charging for it because it was your fault. It was your fault or whatever, and you have to correct it. So it's tough. It's really tough, and then you're thinking about it, at nighttime going, I didn't make no money off that job. So that's why it's important. You got to do a good job. You don't take shortcuts. You on your kickers, you do your kickers good on your backhangs. You get the roller placements set right. You oil the door before you leave. You run the door, 5 to 6, 10 times, whatever. Make sure nothing's going to fail because the tools are here, the truck's here, the door's open, the customer's here, everything is here right now. And if I got to come back, I got to schedule it. You're going to show up. They forgot to be there. They can be there in 10, 20 minutes. And I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's 10, 20 minutes out of your day that you could be out doing something else. So it adds up. What's Mr. Alice? Consider creating a 30-second to 1 minute video showcasing your recent work and sharing it with local Facebook groups. Yeah, yeah, that's true. There's always so much. Like I said, it's changed a lot even in the business because like I said, when I started out, it was phone book, phone book, phone book. Either that or you had to do mailers, for in the mail. You had the papers in front of I mean, there was different ways, you could do it. You could still do the yard signs, but now it's like you don't know. I mean, I'm watching some of these guys and they're talking like, oh, I do Instagram, I do Facebook, I do X, Twitter, whatever and it's like that's why I'm like, holy cow, man! It gets kind of overwhelming, and you don't know which ones are going to click, what kind of person, So you can kind of explore into it. But there's only so much you can do, you know. And then it's like, do you hire somebody? And those people charge a lot. I keep hearing these things on what these people are charging, and I'm like, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. And it's easy to get stuck in that vortex where you're spending so much money and now you're just constantly every day, humping, trying to get the next job, trying to get the next job, trying to get the next job. I gotta get these jobs. I'm so, and then it almost like it makes you feel good, right? You're like, I'm so busy, but are you profitable? You know what I mean? Like, what is your numbers? And then by the time you try to sit there and break it all down, okay, I spent this much. Well, this job was okay. I got to put this as an expense. I got to put this in here. I went to fuel. Boy, I went and bought the guy's lunch today. Ah, and then sometimes you realize that you're working with such small numbers, like even like my roofing buddy, right? His margins are so much higher than mine when I'm dealing with something for $200. Because what are you going to make out of $200? You're making what, maybe $50, $100, you know, and you also remember that you were there for a couple hours. And then the one thing that I didn't consider was the liability. And that's why I always would tell everybody, joking around in a sense, was that it's, you got to remember it's everything, every time you come onto that property, and their kitchen sink starts leaking, that's your fault. Well, no, that's the stupidest thing ever. No, it's your fault, man. Did you go in and use their toilet? Well, yeah, the pump was running now and the pump burned up. You know what I mean? I had openers literally blow up on me right there at the job site, and I'm like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, mommy, I'm like, no, I have to do the, customer, your opener just quit working. And they're like, what? Been up there for 20 years. It's been fine. What'd you do? And I'm like, I was just trying to run the door and it broke. And they're like, well, what are you going to do about this? I should get a discount. You gonna give me a discount? I'm like, I can't do that. Like I just can't, so it's just, I don't know. There's a lot of variables. Consider how long do you think it took for you to build a good reputation within the commercial market? Ooh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Um, commercial is really tough. Um, because when I first started out, I jumped in, man. I jumped right into commercial. I was in there pounding on the doors. I was doing everything you could think of to find the names and find out who I had to reach. And that might even, and I knew it wasn't going to happen in one day. I mean, sometimes this stuff took weeks to months to years. But I would sit there and I consistently find out who it was. I might, this or that. But the biggest thing I found out with a commercial was always, for one, don't screw around with giving them the business line. You almost have to either have them have, especially if you're kind of a one man band or whatever, they need direct contact. These guys are most of the time how do I say it? They've earned their position, right? They're like a captain of a ship, right? The captain just didn't get it overnight, right? He worked up through the ranks. So these guys are kind of in the middle, three-quarters of the way up, and then they got bosses and stuff above them, right? And they don't want to screw around. So they want to call somebody and they don't want to have to explain to the secretary about, where is this at? They want to deal with the person that's knows where, hey, door 7? Yeah. What about door 7? I was just there like 2 weeks ago, right around the corner. Yeah. What's up with it? You know, it's not working, man. Can you come out? Not a problem. We'll handle it. So commercial is such a different animal. I was talking to, I believe, Mike, and he was explaining to me about, he's trying to get into commercial. And I think I still kind of carry on with like, I know some of you guys do it. And I think like we have a smaller DPW around here that you could do it, right? You could do it. But if you want to kind of expand a commercial, like it needs to be two guys. That's just my opinion, because you need two guys for springs. You need two guys for sections. It's almost like a safety, right? Just to make sure somebody's there so you don't get hurt. Or if you have to divide and conquer, just to get the guys on the property to start getting something going. You know what I'm saying? Cause that's how it's going to work, right? You know how it's going to be. It's going to be Friday at 5:00 and they're going to call and you're going to be like, which way do I go? I can't be at both. And so obviously more is better, but, uh, like I said, we've always done really good, with our commercial because like I said, Cap does it, everybody does it. Um, we value them very, very much. So we always make sure like they're Johnny on the spot, you know. Let's see here. So we were right from the get go, though. Like I said, we were 50-50 in the '06, and then the crash happened. And luckily, we were doing commercial because commercial carried us through by the skin of our teeth. But it was funny because right towards the end, you know, all the residential stuff wasn't doing good. Residential was horrible. Residential just bottomed right out. And we right towards then you started seeing the commercial like wisen up. Like one was like Herman Miller, we were the maintenance guys, right? That we go in there's like seven of them, they're all playing video games or playing games on their computer, right? And I'm like, why are we here? You know, but they had so much money and they didn't care, right? They were so fat, I guess, in a sense. Well, then towards then, right, all of a sudden it went down to like three like booths. They had to stand up. There was no more sitting down. There's like three guys instead of like seven. And then now the guy's like watching me and he's like, yeah, they want me to start doing this. And I'm like, do I got to break your knees? Like, I don't want to be showing you how I'm doing this. You're, like, you're taking my job. And you've seen the commercial start to kind of start drying up. They wanted, hey, let's not replace this. Let's repair this if we can. And then luckily we started breaking out the news and everything. You know, it wasn't, I mean, it was scary time, guys. I mean, I remember looking every day at the stock market. It was like, oh my gosh, the stock market went down another points, how many points, whatever. Oh my gosh, this place closed, this bank collapsed. That could be coming, so make sure you're packing some money away. I think it is coming. I think it is because, like I said, even if Mr. T gets in there, that might be the perfect for them to like pop that bubble. I mean, think about it, right? They don't want him in there, and then he does, and it's like, oh, well, here, have fun with this. You know what I mean? Like, think about like running a business, and it's like everything's falling apart, but you're like patching everything, and then when the new guy, you're just like, we're gonna take the duct tape. You know what I mean? And then the guy's like, this place is just everything's got duct tape on it. So I don't know for sure. Like I said, hopefully it doesn't go that way and we just kind of keep moseying through it. But there's definitely something you got to pay attention to those CEOs. That's one thing I didn't know about. They're selling a lot of their stocks. So there's a lot of a lot of people kind of getting out of stuff. And then I think old Zucker and Bill or those people are meeting up here in the next couple days. So what are they going to talk about? You know? So let's take a look here. I'll start recognizing my name. So I want people to start to recognize my name of my business. I want to be active for sure. Like I said, and I think sometimes it's hard. Like I have a hard time with the whole name sometimes, unless it's a really simple, like ABC Roofing Supply, right? That's just something that's resonated with me. It's a simple. So if you're starting out, sometimes you might want, like I said, I always kind of said this before, like I wouldn't normally do the affordable door and gate again. I did it because it was an A and it got us in the top of you know, the phone book at the time. I'd stick with something probably, like one of our competitions, Reliable. Reliable is a great name. You know what I mean? Because it's going to come off your tongue, right? You're sitting there and you're like, well, I want to make it I want to make it dependable. I'm not going to use that word because then they'll sit there and they go, oh, yeah, I was thinking about calling them because now you activated something in their brain. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, no, no, even though they don't do residential. They normally could never compete with us. So what says I want people? Julio, he says, what's the typical cost of an installed 8x7 door without windows installed in your area? Where's Miss B? We need Miss B. I feel like I had a price on that, but honestly, I don't know right off the top of my head. If I had to guess, somewhere between $800 and $1,200. That's just right off the top of my head for an 8x7 no windows pan door. I know the prices have changed a lot, a lot. But like I said, the one thing I always got to remember too is the numbers really they matter. Don't get me wrong, but like your area is always going to be different than my area. It's like I said, when I went down to Arizona and I was working with that door company down there, and I mean, I'm watching they're paying people like $20 to install an opener. It was like under $100 for like a 16 by 7 door. It's just crazy. So the big thing is you always got to, check your market out. You know what I mean? And you'll know because you'll start getting blowback if you tell somebody a price and they go, "Oh, you're too high." And you're like, "Okay, well, how high am I? I'm just curious." Now you just realize you might not get this job, but hey, you know what? You wasted my time. I want to know. And they said, "Well, you're 200 bucks higher." And then that's where you look at it and you go, 200 bucks. You go, hell, I can't even if I buy a door, I'm gonna lose 100 bucks because it's just not enough. Uh Pack the heat, was Mr. Rich say. Oh, it's Chad guy. He says, wouldn't drive time be a big factor in how much you could get done in a day? How late is too late to be working on an install? Every situation, that's a good one, Chad, because every situation is different. Every situation. I've had a job, not this was about a year or two ago, and I was up there working at midnight to 3 in the morning. And I was doing it because we were slammed. I needed to make sure this job was about an hour and 10 minutes one way. And it was for a new builder. And I worked for him one other time through a job that another builder dropped the ball. And so I was working there late, and I remember when I got towards the end of the job and I was pulling trailers and stuff. And oh my gosh, it was so I was using like the what do you call it? The parking areas that people use sharing rides. I was using those to leap my trailers, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't have, and I was right next to a police station. So I was really scared that the police, I'm surprised they didn't come over and they were like, what the heck are you doing pulling trailers out here? Because I had my cargo trailer, I had my big dog cargo trailer up there, my 20-footer. So I had all my stuff I needed. Like, I mean, I brought everything. I brought the work truck, had the scissor lift up there. But the problem is that during the day, they had so many workers up there. They were all in my freaking way. They were putting up wood, they're doing metal, they're doing insulation. So during the day, I would obviously just do my normal service calls and everything. But I was like, I mean, I can't get nothing done. And so that's why I'm always kind of like, this is commercial, obviously, but I'm always telling you guys, like there's tons of variables. And I think when you've done it for a long time, you realize that, and you hopefully start getting better at it. But it's just every job's different. Every job. I mean, the one that me and my daughter did, the lady's not home. I think it's an Airbnb. She had cameras or whatever, so you got to make sure you're, which I got my kid with. I'm not going to do nothing crazy, but every job is different. And that's kind of like, it's kind of fun, but it's also kind of annoying because it's like you can't, it's not like working as a mechanic, right? In a shop, and you're like, okay, the book says it's going to be 3 hours. So it's probably going to take me 2.5. You know what I mean? It's the same kind of car. It's the same, which is kind of boring. I get, but there's just nothing really spelled out for that stuff, and it's really it's very hard to factor it in there. And I've shortened my changed myself many a times on jobs. I've gotten pretty good where I factored it in. I mean, I don't know if I've ever shared it, but you guys, I mean, you do what you got. I've slept in my cargo trailer. I've slept in a Ford Ranger in the front seat because I couldn't make it home because I was falling asleep from doing another job. Um, that's why, like, sometimes, if the business is self-sustained now, right? The business is great. And Cap, he's a great dude. He's got a very good thing going because to make that top spin was a ton and a ton of work. I mean, and it just depends on how you want to push. I mean, you don't have to push that hard, but what do you want your living to be like? Do you not want to have such a nice house? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to push that hard. It's just, I did, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I don't know if, I don't know. What's up, Mr. Tony? It says hello. So Is Alex Julian said, I definitely will do that. Thanks. Says, I want people to start recognizing the name of my business. I want to be active. Yes. Did I miss something here? What's a typical 8x7? I already mentioned that. What would you, but yes, all those jobs. That's why I like with Tim asking that email question. I get this a lot, on the pricing. And I'm like, man, that's like asking you to asking me, what's your flavor for a girlfriend or for a wife? You like blondes, you like brunettes? That's a hard one. You like them fancy? You like them laid back? I mean, there's so many variables. And, so that's why I'm always looking at, I always want my cost. I'm always looking at everything. I always boom, 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 put all my costs. Here's my fuel. Here's my labor. Here's my scissor lift. I got to make some money on the trailer, whatever. Write all that stuff down. So that way, bow, that's it, man. I'm $10,000. I'm break even. I'm not even making no money. So when you send in that price, right, for a quote and you're at 15, the guy goes, we got somebody that could do it for 14. I don't know if you're even interested. And you're like, yeah, I can do it. I can do it for 14, because I ain't got nothing lined up. You know what I mean? Am I crazy with saying that? Like it just all depends. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it for a lot of like homeowners. And that's, that's good for the market, the free market in a sense, because if somebody's not so busy, right, they're going to be able to do it more as a discount, right? But we get times where it's like we're slammed, and typically what we do is we shut off the residential. We'll send them to another guy that's in the business locally here, and we'll keep pounding on our commercial. But you know, obviously, when people are firing it in, like in the August and stuff like that, when we're slammed, it's like, oh, you want this fence job? Like, yeah, this fence job is going to be. It's not even like you kind of get to the point where you're like, I don't even really want this job. And so you bid it and you bid it kind of high, and then sometimes they'll snag. I've had that happen quite a few times. They snag and it's like, it's like, should have charged another 10 grand, and then it turns into just like, how soon can you do it? How soon can you do it? And you're like, I can probably, like, in 2 weeks. Can we do it in a week and a half? Because now I'm going on vacation and I won't be able to write you a check and nobody will be here. And you're like, oh, this is not what I signed up for. Yeah. uh, Pack to Heat 2 says, uh, could I work out a deal with a builder to do installs if they supply the door and part and just charge labor? Yeah, I think, Chad, that's not a bad idea, especially if you're kind of starting out. I mean, I love those kind of things. I had a builder, like I said, a little while back. He builds homes. He's more of a concrete guy, but now he's starting to get into, so like this is how I know this stuff in a set. Like all these guys eventually get into real estate because everybody needs somewhere to live. And so he did concrete, right? And he has a group of guys. Well, they get slow or they got in between jobs. So he sends them out on a house to build, right? Frame it, whatever. He's already got the building license, blah, blah, blah. And he bought from a local lumber yard here, right? So I went there. It was all Horman. And it was kind of nice. I kind of pulled up there. I kind of had my cup. And I'm like, a garage door is a garage door. No, I mean, take it with a grain of salt, but I'm like, this ain't rocket science. So I installed the door. I installed the Horman opener, which I really didn't like, but I installed it. And I kind of got done and I was like, oh, I was like, this is great. Like, I have no cleanup really. I got some cardboard and stuff, but I haven't got to deal with this crappy, junky door, wood door, greasy, nasty metal door, whatever, cutting me, whatever. I packed it in my vehicle, right? I slammed the doors, my van, and then I realized there's a dent in it. And so I called him up and I'm like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, there's a dent in this panel right by the window. And he's like, he goes, that's nothing new. He goes, there seems like everyone I get is damaged. And I'm like, this is great. Okay, well, I just want to make sure you're aware of it because it wasn't me. Now, the only one problem I had with that is I left the remotes there, right? And it was still a new build. So the wall, I think I left the keypad, maybe one screw in partially and left the next screw next to it or something. Cause I knew the drywaller was going to be ticked. Right. And sometimes those drywallers, right? Love you drywallers. And so I tried to make it nice for him, and I left the remotes there though. And then like a day or two went by or something like that, and he calls me and he's like, "Hey," he goes, "Do you got the second remote?" And I'm like, "Uh." I'm like, "I left them right there. I put it on the pad of, paper with instructions, you know." And he's like, They can't find it." He's like, "You sure you didn't take it?" I mean, he kept kind of like, "You sure you didn't take it?" Like, like you probably are selling this on eBay. And I'm like, "Dude, I didn't like, I don't got it." Like so I kind of screwed up there. I wish I would have like handed him to him because he met me later in the day because of course he had something at his house going on or something too. And I just wish I would have said like, brung like a Ziploc bag or something, or put everything in a bag and said, "Here, count 1, 2. See, everything's here. Everything. This is all yours." So when he called me, he's like, "That remote." I'd be like, "I handed it all to you. Remember?" "Oh, that's right." So these are just those little things you do. But I look at it like this: if the builder feels all fluffy with his feathers because now he's buying it at cost, right? Screw it. Go for it, man. Especially when you're just starting out. There's hardly any blowback. I like it. You know what I mean? It's not your product. You didn't deliver it, so you don't even have to deal with like having a storage unit, having a building, having it at your house, have your dog, have your kids jump and climb all over it, wreck it, whatever. Load it back into a vehicle, haul it over there. Something tips in the vehicle or it flies off the truck. You know what I mean? And now you're like, "Oh my gosh, who's going to take care of this?" You are, because it's your problem. But if you just show up, right? It's sitting there in the dirt. Yeah, it sucks, right? I didn't put it there. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. It's you get to point the fingers. It's kind of nice. I enjoyed it a little bit. And then I put a sticker on it. I put a sticker on it, make sure you got stickers. I put a sticker because I knew the house is going to sell, right? And the homeowner, right? The homeowners are not going to, whatever. They're going to call whoever's on that, "Hey, I got a door here," and it's like, "Oh, well," and then you can either go to the lumber yard, which is where it came from, and get a section if you need to. There's a lot of things you can do. You just got to be creative. You know what I mean? You can make money at anything. You know what I mean? I can start walking down the road and I can start picking up pop cans. I can make money. Just got to think outside the box. And then you just start, what happens typically is you'll start outgrowing it. The phone will ring for other stuff. You start realizing, it's a little bit better money in here. I think I need to finally kind of let this guy grow or outgrown him, or I'm going to charge you. Hopefully the builder, I've had one builder that's typically, I don't know, they just sometimes their jams are all over because I think they have their workers aren't the same people. So like sometimes you go to a jam, you're like, "Rock on, man, this jam's perfect." Another time you're like, "What the who built this? Geez, we need 22 by fours, or 2 by 6." But yeah, like I said, I mean, it's hard though. Builders sometimes, unless you go in there with a screaming good deal, it's hard because even the builder that I was working for, I think he's like tells me he's hired like one of my ex-employees at one time. He's using this other guy. I think the other guy must have been busy or sick right now. So that's the only reason I got in there. So the problem is they're always typically looking for the cheap of the cheap, and they can horse you around. So the biggest thing too is I'd always make sure they cut you a check pretty much right when it's done, because sometimes they overextend themselves. So that's always kind of the you hate doing it, and they're, "Oh, I'm busy. I'll just send it to you in the mail," and it's like, ah, and that's just gonna have to be up to you if you trust them. But I wouldn't start doing two or three or four and then be like, "Hey, dude, like, what's going on?" Because like I said, you just have to use it. You might get burned. At least you're not out the material. So that's good. You're out your labor. It sucks, but you're out your labor. You don't have debt behind you. Basically, a vendor going, "You owe us $10,000." You go, "Yeah, well, my builder owes me 20 and he's not paying." So I feel that would be a fast startup of income. I think so. I mean, the big thing is if you can start getting like people on like the Google and stuff like that. I still think I remember a guy that worked for me. He always said, "Hey," he says, "if I'm in the garage door business," he said, I'm gonna do broken springs." I think broken springs, you think about it, you have to carry some springs on your truck, right? But you're almost capturing people like an insurance agent, right? Because when somebody's house burns, right? I mean, it's devastating, right? And they just want relief, right? "Take care of this, pay me, put me in a hotel, whatever." It's traumatizing. Trust me, I know I burned a garage down. But what I'm getting at is with the springs, right? You're there for 20, 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, right? and you got your little bit of drive time in that. So, but the profit, and it can adjust, right? And if you do it after hours, oh, little more money. If you do it on the weekends, oh, little more money. And so you don't have to carry a lot of stuff. You don't even have to have a really big vehicle. You could probably darn near do it out of a sports utility vehicle. It's going to be a little bit of weight is the problem. Put some airbags on it for it's got air ride. You're good to go. You know, but the profit for you're there, and like when you do garage doors, you're there, for a couple hours and then you got to deal where you're going to get rid of the trash. Like I used to burn the stuff. I used to stuff it in my little garbage can that go out by the road. I mean, eventually I went to a 2 yard, it was a 2 yard dumpster. And that was always kind of interesting because they didn't really like me. They didn't want to come in my driveway because they were going to wreck the driveway. I had an asphalt driveway. So I'd have to fork it out to the road every whatever it was, Tuesday they pick up or something. So me, I think about it. I go, oh, Garage Door Springs. What's nice about Garage Door Springs too? Plus, you're getting their scrap. So now it's actually a little extra money, right? Scrap ain't really worth much, but you get a pile of them and you take them in. They make 50, $200. So I still like the springs. You know what I mean? Because you're capturing somebody, not to take advantage of them, but it's easier because if you can be there, right? That's what they care about. They're like, when can you be here? And you're like, I can be there in like 20 minutes. They're like, oh, done. You know what I mean? And you show up, you do a good job. You got a little bit of spray lube, you spray stuff down, changed out the springs. It's whatever, two, three, $400, and you're making your margins are really good, I think, for the time. You know what I mean? You're not there, because when you think about garage doors sometimes too, like with the builder, they typically always leave um all the siding and crap in there, generator, other people's trades and stuff's in the way, stuff that you can't even stand, windows that you can't, and you're like, and you get it, right? You're like, I get why they did it, but it's also like it's in my way. So not that you can't have a car or something stuck in there and a person's, but I just always thought about that when he told me, he says, if I ever started a door business, I'm going to start springs. And I thought, I think that's not a bad idea because you just come in there with that panic versus like when you're changing out a door, they're just looking at price. Like I already got 3 other bids. Yours is like $50 higher. Why would I use you? I have a lot of subdivisions popping up right now. Yeah, it's when you're hungry, you're hungry. Yeah. I mean, you can always, it doesn't ever hurt to ask. I found out a lot of times the people like this stuff's already been planned and scheduled. So I never had a lot of good luck. Like when I would stop at these jobs, I never realized that it's just a foreman for the guys that are there. And he might mention you to the guy that's actually, because not always, but normally when it's multiple houses and stuff like that, it's not the builder being there, right? He's already running around writing checks everywhere, doing all kinds of stuff. So you typically aren't getting in front of the person that you really need to get in front of. Um, and like I said, sometimes they're guys that just they already got a system, right? And if their system isn't working, so then that's your opportunity to come in. But I mean, I've done them for darn near like try to do them for free. You know what I mean? And it's like they don't even give a rat's. Like they don't even want. Not to say you can't, because like I said, you got to swing, and sometimes you hit one. But if you can, like I said, it's tough because if you can get more on that emergency, like there's a fire, like your spring broke, and you basically have nothing. They love that kind of stuff. Let's see. Tanner, what's up, Mr. Tanner? I feel like Tanner, I should make you administration or you should do moderating. Don't forget. Oh my gosh. Tanner. Come on, Tanner. We're gonna go outside. Bring up that subject. I'm gonna find one day. I'm gonna find a light bulb shirt. I am. Uh Yes, the light bulbs and remotes. Nothing is worse than going back for a light bulb. Amen. I can't tell you those stupid light bulbs. I just, I just had somebody, who was mentioned. They're like, I thought they're supposed to provide light bulb, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I thought that too until they come out with like one. They're like, will one work? I took it out of my lamp in my kitchen or out of my living room, and you're like, how old's this? Yeah. When's this thing gonna fail? Because people just don't think, man. They'll call you and they're like, you know, hey, I think that opener you installed is not working. And you're like, not working. What? And then it's like, yeah, light bulb quit working. Well, that's a used light bulb, well, well, it's not working. Can you fix that? Can you change it out, please? You know, I can try, and then you're waiting for like a phone call from like 20 minutes later. I tried changing that light bulb. I fell off the ladder. Now I'm going to the hospital. Thanks a lot. This is all your fault. You know, I'm sorry. Oh man. Mr. Ricky, do you use the warranty companies for jobs? I've never got signed up with them. I think Mr. SOS has. I thought he did a lot, and I thought he did all right with the warranty. There's so many things like you can think about too. Like, I'm not a fan of realtors. Realtors are shisty people, just in my opinion. Not all, but I've had a lot of I've done stuff they don't like. I don't have them locked in. Like to me, I like loyal customers. I like people that are already locked in. I've already played with their money, right? They called me. I've gotten money from them. Their checks clear. Anytime you keep bouncing around, to people that are just, it just gets weird. So like we have one property manager, and they're kind of always like they always throw us like in some really crappy situations, right? But they do keep calling, and we do get some jobs from them. So like property managers would be a good one. Because they're always looking for like painters, people that can fix things, handyman, cheap. Um, so you the like I said, I don't know what the warranty companies. What gets me nervous about doing the warranty companies is like, let's say for like Chad or anybody is starting out, they're gonna want insurance, they're gonna want, proof of workman's comp. If they're gonna want certain criterias possibly. I don't know because I never 100% did them. Uh, it says it says I got a roll today. It says yes, homeowner, or it says wait, how's this? However, that is weird deal when you buy a lamp and it does not come. Oh, Tanner, man, dude, that's a good one, man. That's stimmies right there. That is funny. You think about it. You buy a lamp and it doesn't come with a bulb. Oh, sons of biscuits. When you buy a ceiling fan, it does not come with light bulbs, but just do it. It will. Those are such good valid points. You know what I mean? But you think about it. If you buy a lamp, typically you don't hire somebody to install it, right? And if you buy a ceiling fan, you're probably going to do it yourself, or your handyman's going to do it. So I totally agree with Tanner. But like I said, when you're, it's, I always still think about the Best Buy, right? I think about if I went to Best Buy and I, bought the mega TV, the surround sound, right? And I had a hard day at work, right? Let's say I'm a stock trader or something, I'm a big millionaire, and I come home, from a day of just, and I want to watch the weather or the news or the football game or whatever's on. And I go to hit that remote and I'm like, what the? Mm, mm. And all of a sudden you're like, honey, I thought you said they got this all working. And she's like, they did. They told me it was all set. And you're like, it's not working. And then you crack open, and you're like, they didn't put no stinking batteries in this. The first thing, I mean, you're going to like call them. I mean, it's going to be just over, man. It's over. And so obviously I learned because I just kept installing people's used light bulbs, and I'd ask them, hey, do you got light bulbs? And then what was the worst thing for me is I started using those curly cubes. Well, the curly cubes would interfere with the signal and make the door open and do funny things. And then the LEDs now have had issues where they block the signal. And I'm just like, why? I mean, I'm literally at Home Depot tonight, right? Watching an LED light that turns off. It must be heating up. And I'm like, why is that light doing that? I mean, it was like irritating me. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, why'd that light? This one's on. This one's been on the whole time. But I'm like, why'd this LED turn off? And then it pops on and automatic, like it overheated. And I'm like, you're just a light, just light. Like, I mean, I, the old light bulbs, they just pop once in a while, right? But these dark things, has anybody gone past these parking lots now? And you see the LEDs that are flittering, it almost makes you like go into a seizure. They're pop, 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 and you're like, geez, somebody needs to call that place, tell them fix their light in their parking lot. Lights are just nutty, man. So always provide light bulbs. Tanner's so right. And it just saves, and it's gotten easier actually, because nowadays they got the LED bulbs. You can buy the Genies or whatever. We still use the GE and they work fine, but they're more robust. We had light bulbs. I remember smashed light bulbs in the truck. It was a nightmare. Guys complaining. Now they're plastic, so it's nice. Was it Kevin got here? Things that be hard to do. Most builders look to pass door work off. They aren't a dealer, so still probably buying a mark up through a dealer. It's hard to say, you know what I mean? Because like for us, I think about the builders in our area. We don't have really any super big builders anymore, like in our area. There is some in the other cities, but the builders here are they might do like 3, 5, 6 houses a year. We don't have and some they're normally outside people. Like if they do like a big subdivision or something by the lake, it seems like um I see like Mexicans working there and stuff. And so they kind of got like their own crew. But like for us, these guys are buying from our lumber companies here. And so for them, they in a nutshell, they get a package deal. We do have a builder that he can get prices um through the builder. And I guess I didn't even ever think of this. I should offer it to him to say, hey, if you want to get the door, like you just get the door, because he's always asking for prices. And I know he's always bouncing between us and probably like another one or two door guys. And so we don't always get them. And I understand he might not always get the jobs, but it would be easier that it's like instead of bugging, look, we'll just do it for, X amount of dollars per square foot. You know what I mean? So that's your math. Just figure out it's $10 a square foot or whatever you want to call it, dollar a square foot. And whatever the door cost is, because all that stuff keeps changing. So it's always so hard to keep up, with prices, because, steel prices now are kind of like, like scrap metal. It's like one day it's up, one day it's down, typically never down, but it's up and it's up and it's up. And then you realize, I've had this happen. The secretary has chewed my butt out about, you sold that for what? And I'm like, what? She's like, you didn't know we had a 10% increase last Friday? And I'm like, what? And I'm like, well, they're just went $100, $200 out of the pocket. I'm like, crap. I've been hungry for years, still hungry at 56. Heck yeah, that's right, Tony. That's me too, man. I'm always hungry. Feed me. Plus, they don't want to educate themselves on headroom requirements or product options. Isn't that the truth, man? How many times? I mean, we still got a big builder that does commercial, and he's always squeezing the headroom too tight. Always. I mean, it's like, dude, it's like give us basically 2 foot. Give us 2 foot, and everything will be standard. It'll fit. And it's like we get there and he's like, well, can you fix it? And it's like, that's not what the point is if we would have known this, we could have, got this figured out. Exactly. And on developments, you can make as much or more off the markup on residential doors, but commercial is where the money is at. Yeah, I'd have to agree. Typically with commercial, like I said, the guys, they just want it fixed. You know what I mean? They got guys that work under them, that are driving the trucks or driving the forklifts or whatever, right? And they just want it fixed. And if you're the guy that, answers the phone, texts them back, whatever it is, they don't have to think about it. And once you get in their system, it's like they don't even really want to deal with trying to get somebody else. If you always are doing good work and, very honest and stuff, people get lazy. You know what I mean? And hey, it's happened even in my business, right? You start just drifting. You start getting so busy, and maybe you're not taking care of a customer as much as you should be. That's why I always stress to Cap. I'm like, hey, make sure these people, you're always on it, because one day they're going to drift off at some point. They're probably going to, they're going to drift off, try somebody else, wherever, and they're going to realize, like, oh man, this guy, He ain't like the other dude. He always showed up. He was honest. He never stole from us. He wore this, the big thing with commercial. Take this as a pointer. Remember, wear the safety gear. You know what I mean? If those guys are wearing high vis, you wear high vis. They're wearing those steel toe boots, you wear steel toe boots. Nobody wears shorts on this job, whatever. Make sure you're wearing pants. Um, you know, all those things add up because they don't need another liability because you know darn well all those employees are going back going, hey, that guy you brung in or hired, he don't have to wear high vis. What's up with that? You know what I mean? They don't like that. And then they got to have it. They don't even want to have a talk with you. They might be a little shy or they just like, oh man, or they do tell you and they're like, I really don't feel like I should have to tell you, wear the hard hats, safety glasses. You gotta level up to their standards. You know what I mean? And that's how you'll blend in better. But if you don't blend in, like you're the guy that's got shorts and flip flops on, and they're like, dude, you're out, you know, to educate. Exactly. And what are the labor? What does that say? KPIS for this? I have no idea what that means, Mr. Tim. Those are things that are better off for the accountant. Um, New Age, what's up, man? Tell them to kick rocks. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's like I said. Does anybody else think we're still kind of in a fluffy market? I don't know what's going on. What's the old Bitcoin went up. The stock market's just going crazy. Supposedly, I didn't check it today, but it's just I don't know, man. There's too much fluff, and I'm not seeing it. You know what I mean? I watch some key companies around my area, and I don't see business just rocking or see people have a lot of disposable income. Tony says choice home warranty. Do not use them unless you don't mind working for half the money. I don't doubt that, man. It just seems like all these places turn into like sometimes like a scam. We worked for I guess we did work for a warranty company in a sense. I don't know if you call them warranty, but they would do commercial. And I found out the key is they would pay you for material. They could give you a credit card for material, but they couldn't give you money for labor. So they would call up, and a lot of times it was for like a commercial building, or most of the time we got a lot for like the mall. And we'd be like, all right, yeah, we go out there. And they'd say, well, what's your service call? And you tell them, right? And then we showed up. And then I learned a trick because one time I was talking to him, I screwed up. The phone broke up or something, and the guy's like, "Oh," he goes, "we can pay that." He goes, "I got authority that I can pay." Because we had to buy, I think, some garage door springs. I was like, "I'm not eating these, dude. They're like $500, $600 a piece," and I'm like, "I'm not getting burned on these." He goes, "Oh, we can approve, material. It's just we can't pay the labor." So I got his card number, right? And I think I didn't even just because I got his card number, I trusted it. I kind of worked for this place. I didn't work for this guy, right? But I felt okay with it. So the springs came in really quick. I went up there, I installed them, and I remember I ran his card for the full amount. And he calls me up and he's like, "What the heck, man?" He's like, and I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "It's no problem." I'm like, "We're all set." I was like, "That's your bill's all set. We're all good to go." I was like, "We're already approved for this." I was like, "We're under what you can't just, and I don't remember if I told him. I don't think I did. I just told me, hey, we're all set, and he didn't like that. So, but they can do material. So make sure you get a card for material before you order for some of these companies, because, like I found out we were doing one for another mall farther away, and they called me like a year later, might have been 2 years even, I don't know, but they called and they said, can you still do this job? And I said, yeah, we were slow. We needed the work. And I was like, it was like for $17,000. I'm like, we can change out. We're good. Well, I didn't realize that the doors, went up 20% or whatever it was. And so when I started doing the math, I'm like, oh, I'm like, we are not going to make any money, and I'm like doing the whole conversation with the wife at night. I'm like, I don't know what we're going to do. Like, I mean, I already told them, so I called them up and I basically told them, I said, look, I said, I can't do this job. And the guy's like, all right, he goes, well, here's the thing. He goes, I got $1,000 marked up on this, and he's like, can you do it for another $1,000? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, we can honor that. He says, otherwise I got to go back. I got to get this all approved. And I'm like, yeah, we can do it for another $1,000. I said, we'll do it. So we did a roll up curtain. Yeah. Am I saying that right? It's not a roll up curtain, but it's a, what do they call it? Safety gate type thing. And we ended up doing it. It was still not fun, especially when you're far away because you don't have your stuff behind you to go get. You know what I mean? You got to bring everything to it. Let's see here. It says had a job the other day where the homeowner had this new, what is that? Heckin' Tesla? Oh, whoa. Tesla deal where the doors opened up instead of, out 17-foot headroom. It says I gave it, what does this say? It's so small, 2-inch of high lift and pitched the track. Oh my gosh. 1 inch. Holy cow. So is that like those doors that wing up? I'm wondering. Never thought about that. You ever, because you see the Teslas, how sometimes they got the doors, because you'll see them like hit, like when they back up, they left it open. Never thought about that. That's interesting. Guess I'm not going to own an electric vehicle anytime soon. Wow. 17. Wow. Dude, that's crazy. Neither did the builder. Wow. Dude, that's stuff that's like, sometimes that's why, like I say, this stuff is always changing and it's not even in your control. And who would have thought of that? I would have never even thought of that. That's a really good point. And then they got to change the design of the building, the headroom. I mean, door goes up higher, high lift, whatever. Like we got some builders that'll do a lot of the windows above, so no windows in the garage door, but they do windows in the header. But dude, that's crazy. I can only imagine like a homeowner. Could you imagine like you're there, you install this garage or whatever too, and they're like, what are you gonna do about this? What am I gonna do about it? Uh uh, what are you gonna do about it, builder? Build a new house. Build them a taller one. That's crazy. What I'm asking is, what does it say? Percent of revenue that should labor be? For example, in HVAC's 25, what should be the targets for this business? That I cannot say. It varies so much. It really does. It just depends on what the job. So, residential is a lot different than commercial. It says door went in whole. It says door went in whole, boss. Happy I got my units. Nice. Do. Like Mr. Tanner. So Mr. Tanner say, like Dave said, garage door prices are different depending on the state or area you're in. I know some guys who does it by the hour. And let's see here, by the hour. Some guys who does it by the hour. I think most does it by square foot here in the Northwest. So those are some great points. Those really are. I used to, I remember when I first started out, I had a guy, he walked up to me and he's like, "What's your square foot price?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, what do you charge for square foot?" I'm like, so I mean, um, it can be all different. It really can. You just have to figure out what works for you. You know what I mean? And I've tried to use the numbers. I've tried to use the old, calculator and the margins and stuff like that on commercial, and I've gotten my butt handed to me. Like I've done it where, like, I'm like, okay, every door should be X amount, right? This should be easy, and it's not, because you have to factor in there. Like I said, like for around here, our competition, typically what they'll do is if there's like 6 doors, they'll bring surrounding door companies in and they'll hammer it out. So they'll, for me, it's like, well, that's going to take me, if you do like a 12 by 14 or a 14 by 14 with an opener, for me, right? If there's an existing door, that's a hell of a long day. You're probably talking 10 to 14 hours, you know, But if we're doing a new install and the jam's all right and the red steel's all there like it should be, and there's no funniness, it's really not too bad. You know what I mean? We can probably do it. We do a good job in about 8 to 10, 12 hours. So it all just changes a lot. You know what I mean? That's just for us. That I mean, but we use like premium wire. We do really nice wall mounts. You know, we do all the bells and whistles. We're doing spreader bars on the jack shaft openers. You know, we're doing the trolleys with nice heavy duty commercial angle. That's just what it takes us for like with two guys. So I can look at every door typically, you know, and like I said, 14 by 14, 12 by 14. It's basically the same. You know what I mean? It's you got to get the sections out, you got to put the hinges on, get the door stacked, get the scissor lift in place. It's basically a day for that kind of stuff for us. Could you do them faster? Yeah, I've done them faster, but is the quality there? No. Are you killing yourself and your body? Yeah. Um, you know, so it just you gotta kind of do the math in that way. I think heating and cooling, my one buddy that passed away, that was in the door business. He always used to joke to me, he goes, "Why is it that the nobody ever gripes about the heating and cooling guy, you know, to pay them, but when it comes to us, the garage door, it's like, oh, you know, well," and I'm sure that don't get me wrong, I'm sure heating and cooling have their own problems. Though you just start figuring out what works and what you can make money on, and especially like how saturated it is, you know what I mean, in the area. You know, how competitive are you fighting trunk slammers? Are you you know, like I found at least it seemed like down there when I was like in Arizona, and this is like I said, you know, quite a few years ago. You know, the guy said labor is just super cheap. You know, you can there's I mean, the one guy who used to work for me would tell me all the time how he's like, hey, he's like, you go down in Texas, he's like, you go on every corner, he's like in the morning, and he says, and there's like three or four compadres that are sitting there, and he says, you just pull up in a truck with your cowboy hat on, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna take you, now you too ugly. I'll take you. I'm on two, three guys. You jump in the truck. We're gonna go work. He's like, that's just normal. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, I've heard like you go down um to like the Home Depots down there, and like the parking lot will be like almost like full of people in a sense that are like on tailgates or they sell things or they're looking for work. Um, so I mean, it's like, wow, you know, here it's like we got to find the disabled or guy that can work under the table, and you gotta like dig for them right through word of mouth. We don't have anybody on the corner. If you find people on the corner, they're no good. They're just asking for handouts or they're loaded up on drugs typically, and they would cost you more money than make you money. But for me, like I said, the big thing is the calculator for like Tim. I've always used the margins. I love the margin. That's how I use this calculator. And I always put my cost and I will calculate it three different ways typically. Always get my cost. I always get my cost of everything and then I'll calculate it and go, what's the market gonna bear? My competition, I just know from dealing with my competition, they're gonna charge this. So I'll go, okay, so that's where they're at. And then depending on who it is, the customer, right? Is this a builder? Is this a brand new builder? Is this somebody I want to get in with? And that's why it sucks for us because I get this all the time, right? We got competition and they'll, some of my commercial guys, they'll go, I gotta send this out for bid. I'm like, great. And so like the repairs, I can make great money on. They got like an open checkbook. But when it comes to replace, they got to get bids. So then it turns into I've had my competition. They'll come in and just do it for peanuts, almost cost. Like there's no way they're making like I know what openers cost, and even if they're getting openers $50 or $100 cheaper, a commercial opener, that's like what they're doing it for. And I'm like, how are they doing it for like how are they installing a commercial opener for like $500-$600? What? I mean, we're all $800-$1,200, $1,600. I mean, it's like, come on, man. and you know what they're doing. They're trying to they get in that system, right? They get their all their stuff going, right? Their paperwork and stuff, and they start liking them or whatever, build a relationship, then they're in. So that's why with commercial, you got to, you know, do everything really good. Always remember every time you are out to do a bid on replacing it, that they might behind and not even tell you they're getting a quote for something else, and that's when your competition. I've done it. I've done it where we've had certain ones, and it's like, dude, like I've told Cap, I've told other workers, I'm like, hey man, like that one's a good one. Like that's hard. That's super hard to get that phone to ring with that customer. Like do it for like cost. Just do it for cost. Do this one, which is really stupid, right? It is. I agree, but you're like, dude, like once you get it there, then all you do is you start talking. Who do you guys use? Oh, we use them, but they suck. Oh, really? Oh, well, here. Here's my business card right here. You give me a call. Here's my direct phone number. You deal with me. You like me? We're good. We got one customer I always remember, Cap. Cap has a relationship with him. I can never make a relationship with him. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. It's just long as it works. Those two click. I never clicked with them. And then I have customers that I click with that still contact me to this day. I just had one yesterday. And I was like, hey, what can I do for you? Dun, 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 dun. Neither did the builder. Door went in the hole, says like Dave. Yes, Tanner says. Yeah, it's always changing. Iowa, I do everywhere, anywhere from $4 to $6. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Foot and a few hundred to five for openers. Yeah, I don't know why. Like the square footage, like I don't think it's I don't think the square foots is bad, especially for like residential. But it's like for me, we're like 50-50. We're doing commercial and then we're doing residential. And then it's like residential, we got some builders, right? And they'll do stuff out of the city. And so then it's like, well, now we got to add like, 20, $40, $60 for fuel or whatever. So it's always hard to factor that. And then it's like, are we tearing out? Because like for us, we were charging an extra $40 for a tear out of a wood door. Um, because wood doors are a pain in the butt and you got to cut them up and throw them in the dumpster, or what we were trying to do. I don't think they're quite doing that yet, is we would just take them right to the landfill because they're already in the vehicle. The guy's already in the truck. The landfill's really close. Just take them down there and get rid of them. You know what I mean? Don't bring them back to the shop and try to sawzall them and cut your leg off and then fit them in the dumpster, because I'm sure the garbage guy does not enjoy that. So we charge extra for that. For us, it's always been so volatile. And then like for our commercial, are you doing insulated? Are we doing, what model are we doing? Do we got struts we got to put on it? Does it have high lift? Does it have roof pitch? Is it, what's the drops? So that's where it always kind of got a little bit feud for us. I was like, yeah, we can't, because it just, I think it's a very good, it's kind of like that whole thing. If somebody wants a price, I'll call for a price on a garage door and then I'll just double it. You know what I mean? So if they're like, well, how much? And they're just pushing me, how much? How much? And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, well, just give me something, anything. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll give you something. I'll give you a freaking high price. So I go, okay, well, it's double. So that's the price. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, geez, it's kind of more than I thought. Well, it probably on the high end, probably do a little bit cheaper, but I'll just do not to exceed because I already know the job. I already seen it. So there's just a lot of variables. Like I said, I think there's so many more variables compared to like a mechanic, right? Because you're in a building, it's heated, it's controlled, it's lit, right? You got a vehicle, you look at it and then you go, okay, I know it's going to take X amount. I know they have some variables, right? Somebody puts a boom box in there, it's in the way or something, right? Very little though. It's a very controlled environment. For us, we're not in controlled environments, right? We don't know what the road conditions are that day. We don't know what the gas prices are going to be currently. We don't know if the customer doesn't pay us right away. They pay us in 60 to 90 days later. That money's actually crummier now because you're like, well, gas, I couldn't invest that or whatever because prices have gone up now. I don't like all the variables. I really don't. I don't like light bulbs. I don't like whips. Like, why don't the stinking commercials come with whips on them? I know, I get it. I get it. But if the electrician don't like it, he can just cut the damn things off and then hardwire it in. That's how I look at it. But I always put stinking whips on them, and I got to buy these whips. And they're like $15 a pop. Pro tip, I typically cut them off residential openers, but it's irritating. I'm like, can I just get a whip on this thing? You don't get no remotes. Those ones don't have light bulbs, obviously, so that's kind of nice. But I'm like, why don't they send me a spreader bar? Like, give me a spreader bar. I think does Genie? I think Genie does. Liftmaster don't. Those pricks. Sorry. And- oh man. Oh, this is so that's cool. I haven't heard a number in a long time, so I'm glad Tanner said something about the price, $4 to $6. And like I said, that just depends. You go down to old Arizona, it's probably $1 to $2. So Tony says here in Indiana, I'm getting 565 for Liftmaster 7-foot. Oh, dang. That sounds about right. I'm kind of old school. I mean, I used to install stuff for $300-400 back in my era. So I know they range like $400 to $800, depending on how many bells and whistles you get. Just depends. What do you that's why I just tell you, what's an opener? $400 to $800, 4 to 6, 4 to 8, just to be on the high side in case they go, well, I want 4 remotes and 2 outside keypads and double lights. And, I want the Wi-Fi and I want the camera and, I want the smart link and I want it to link to my outside doorbell. And I'm like, that just added up a lot. But that sounds about right. Like I said, the 565. It's a nice number. I like that number. It's not 600, not 550, but it's 565. It's got a nice little ring to it. Price check. What's that say? Price check. Don't go by square foot. I check out what my competitors are. That stuff, it varies so much. It really does. I just, like I said, it never works for me. It's kind of like, I still find out to this day, like I still always want to call the secretary because I don't know what it is. It's like even their books are kind of weird. Well, they don't really use books hardly anymore, but I'll call and I think I know what it's going to cost, and she'll blow me out of the water by like $100 or $200. I'm like, what? I'm like, it's only another 2 feet. I don't know. That's what they told me. With windows, it's that much. What? So I'm always like, I want the price from the vendor. Now I got burned a few times because I did order something one time and she told me a verbal. She really believed that she told me that too. She couldn't find it in her notes. She couldn't honor it. So I think it was like another $100, $200 more for the door. And I'm like, you're killing me, man. Like, I'm like, I quoted it for this because I knew it was this price. And so sometimes, you want a confirmation from them, your vendor or whatever, to prove. So if you go back in 2 days and you didn't know nothing about any price hike or anything, and you go back and go, look, no, I got it right here. I'll take a picture of it and send it to you. Especially if it's a bigger job or stuff like that, because these things can add up real fast. Trust me, I know. And your margins are really tight. And when you start taking out $100, $200, and then you want to bring in another guy, to help install, man, that stuff can really screw you big time. And there's nothing worse, right? I'm sure we've all been there. I've been there. You're at the job, right? And you're there and you're just like, the guys are all bebopping, doing their thing. The music's playing. And you're sitting there like, man, I'm freaking breaking even basically on this job. Oh, I hope we get some service out of this. Crap. Make sure you put stickers on that, boys. Yep. All right. uh, I do like the new built-in LED LiftMasters. Yes. I just hope they so Tanner, do you know, are they replaceable? Can you pop those lights, take the brim off and replace them pretty easy? Because they're going to eventually fail. Or they're going to glitch out or something. But yes, I think it's a great idea. I love it because it's all in a package, right? I'm always about everything being in a package to give to my sub, to give to an employee, to give to a customer, and not have to be like, I rip boxes on them all the time. I stuff light bulbs in them, repackage them up, use different color tape so we knew that they were actually put together correctly. Make sure they have 2 remotes and 1 outside keypad. I don't care. It's just a package deal. I don't care if they want it, don't want it, throw it away, put it in the fire, sell it on eBay. I don't care. It's just what you're getting, and we're not going to fight over this, uh, but I just wonder on the new Lift Masters if you can change, like if it's pretty easy to swap out with a plug or something, or it's like you got to dissect this thing because kind of like with the Genie or I think did I say Genie, but I meant Lift Master LEDs. The Genies is like the light bulbs, right? I was on the big kick, right? I was going to their seminars and stuff like that, right? And they're, they toss you the light bulb because, and you're like, oh, and they toss it short, so it hit the ground, and I'm like, oh, it didn't break. That's when light bulbs are just starting to come out, be plastic, the LEDs. And so I was on this big kick, and they were like, oh, so I could get them for I don't know, like $6 or $8, which is kind of still expensive. And so I bought a ton of them, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna test these puppies out. So I put them all around the shop and stuff. And whatever they were claiming for how long they would last was not how long they last. And I couldn't ever figure out if it seemed like they did better if they stayed on because we had one at the shop that would stay on. So they seemed like they do better. But the ones that you'd turn on and off, like light switch, it seemed like they started having failures. Like they'd start freaking out and they'd start flickering and they wouldn't turn on as bright. And I was like, what the heck, man? I was like, this thing's only like, whatever, 6 months, a year old. I'm like, and this light hardly ever gets used, so the claims always, and I'm always like, if you read the fine print, probably says if continuously on, like they don't like to charge up and down. So I think about these, I worry about these LEDs that I'm going to come across in the future. And it's like, crap, now I got to change it out, and the opener still works. So now is it like an easy fix or is it going to be, that's why I'm also like not real gun ho about these whole cameras. Cause these things are going to have problems. And I just don't want to even deal with a service call that my camera, can you come out, look at my camera? I'm not a security company. And then what are you supposed to do? Like, to me, that's just a separate thing. It needs to be separate, you know? Maybe that's why Genie hasn't even, I don't think Genie's got on board with that stuff. Maybe they're kind of being like the whole electric car stuff right now. And then Toyota sat back and was like, yeah, we're not going to really, I think Toyota did build a couple electric cars, but I didn't really hear it promoted or anything. But we're not going to get into the electric cars. We're going to deal with hybrids because we don't believe electric is going to be quite the future. We have to always realize that electric cars were built back, whatever, 1950 or something like that. And it's just, people don't want them. They got anxiety of running out of electricity. I mean, the hybrid is just keep working on the hybrid. You know what I mean? Like I watched a guy build a car once and he's got like a little Honda generator that charges his batteries. I'm like, that's ingenious. Like that works. Like you have to have something that charges them. I don't know. Some of this stuff just gets a little wonky. It's too much, too much. So am I a mechanic or am I a IT guy? I don't know. It says, I do like the built-in. Yes. A belt drive openers. Yeah, Cap, I think, is going to be dealing with the Lift Masters again here. So that's cool. As Tony says, true story, Dave. He says, I done that when I was in Texas. That's what I'm saying, right? Down in Texas and like even in Arizona, like I said, the dude had like 4 doors on his truck. On a truck stacked. I mean, they were just huge. And like I said, he shows up with a little bag. It's this company truck. And I got that price sheet and it was like, I'm like sitting there and I remember the guy, he just told me, he's like, dude, he's like, you won't get this up north. And I thought, heck no. Like I would have guys laugh at me if I'm like, hey, you're going to take our company truck and I'm going to go pay you $20 to go install that opener. Like, what? Like, yeah, that's also take out and install. To be like, no way. You know what I mean? And then how's like obviously I guess we would charge more, but if I was to pay the guy, and then I was like, what do you do about warranty? And he's like, oh, warranty, they get like $5 or something. And I'm like, and I think my mom, she had a place down there. They had carpet changed and, the prices were just, and the people they were nice. I mean, they did good stuff. I mean, it was even like the hotel and stuff, the maids and stuff. I mean, they were nice. They did good work. But the price was just, I just couldn't believe when I kept hearing prices and I'd ask and I'd say, how much, and I was just like, wow. But he said a lot of it was just, I think it was, they come across the border or whatever, or just that area is saturated. And then, like I said, the guy that used to work for me, he's like, yeah, he was from Texas. He's like, dude, he's like, you just go to the corner and pick, I want you today. Come with me. and that's just how they roll down there. And I thought, wow, like that's crazy. Like here, like either got to pay them a super big premium or you got to find somebody that's like that does not want. It's like I just want like just pay me cash for today, and hope that they're not all strung out. And I mean, they're very hard to find. Yeah, maybe it's because we're a blue state, and so they get a lot more stimmies. And I don't know. I'm not saying that's good. I mean, all this stuff has changed, huge, obviously, with you know, what's up, Mister Josh Maya? What's up? So yeah, I think it's like 20 or $30 for a whole assembly for the light. Oh, okay. So it is. Okay. Yeah, it's not bad. It's getting goofy. I just like I said, I love the business. It's just when you've been doing it for a lot of years, um, there's just so many variables. That's what I don't enjoy because and it seems like a lot of this stuff is not improving for our benefit, and which really irritates me. It's it's glamour. It seems like for the customer, right? Like, oh, look, this one's got Wi-Fi. Oh, look, this one's got a video camera. Oh, and they're trying to get the attention. But then it's like we can't even get down to the core fundamentals of is the garage door going to go up and down reliably? You know what I mean? Is it going to function without no service calls and calls backs? That's where it gets me a little bit. And it seems like you just can't, you can't find somebody that just seems like they keep improving. Like, kind of like I know you guys tell me about like North Central Door or like the Midland doors, you know, I believe in those companies. You know what I mean? I believe they try to do good. I like when they got a checklist in there and they're making those improvements and they seem like they don't really mess with things too much, right? It pretty much stays the same. That's what I kind of like because it works. And I feel like sometimes the garage door business or the garage door industry can be so far behind to some degrees, but yet then it's like they also change things. You go, what the? Why did you change that? Why would you do that? And they're just like, oh, it's better. It's kind of like when Torque Master. I remember the guy coming in and he's oh, you guys got to start buying the Torque Master. And I was kind of like, I was green, right? And I'm like, "Huh, okay, oh yeah, that's great. Like that's great technology. So I'm out there just selling them. And I remember the first two doors we do that are duplex, and I can't even get the darn thing, with a torque. Was it the Torque Master, whatever it was, their opener, the iDrive. That's what it is, the iDrive. And I couldn't get the stupid iDrive to work, and I'm just like, and it's got this little paddle, dee, 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 and does this little thing, like, and the door's like 3 inches off the ground. And I mean, I'm trying everything to like bypass this. And I'm like, please, I'm like, just give me mechanical limits that I can turn, and it's supposed to sense. And I'm like, what the hell is it sensing? I'm like, the door runs perfect. Like it's perfectly balanced. And this thing is not like, so we had to like stand on the door to make it like do its thing. And it's like, okay, we're never doing this. And then they're like, why aren't you buying these? And it's like, why are we buying these? Because they're junk. And then luckily it phased away. Oh no, well, you're the first ones. I hate when they tell you that, right? Everybody always call for tech support. Oh, this is the first time I've ever heard of this bull crap. Don't, like I'd rather you just tell me straight up, hey, we are having a little bit of issue. This is how we're remedying it. We're taking care of it. Okay, thanks. Thanks. Thanks for not making me feel like I'm freaking insane. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I'm just sitting there like, oh, did I do something? Well, hell, I've been doing this for years. Did I do something wrong? That's I still remember when I had loop detectors for a gate operator, and that's when the whole cough syndrome was going around. Package is all the same, right? I open it up, I'm out in the field, right? You guys know how this is. It's like when you're out there, you're a lone wolf. You know what I mean? You're out there, you're it's almost like you're hunting, but you're being hunted, you know what I mean? By just everything, the government, you know, the wife's calling, the kids are calling, the customer's calling, it's gonna rain in 20 minutes. I gotta get this done. The truck's got a tire that's leaking that pretty soon it's gonna be flat. So you gotta get this job done fast, and you got all these things coming on you, right? And I remember I opened this package, right? And the loop detectors are always black. So I open up this one, it's white. And I'm like, what in the why is it, I plug it in, it doesn't work. And I'm trying everything. I'm like unplugging it. I got another one with me. I unpackaged that one. That one's white too. Normally they're black. What's going on here? I plugged that into the circuit board. It's not working. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I'm like, I'm so far away from my vendor right now. And so I remember I call them and she's like, I'm like, hey, we got a problem. And she's like, well, what's the problem? And I said, this loop detector. Well, they're the same. I said, I said, no, they're not. I said, I used to get black ones from you, and now I got white ones. I said, they look identical, plugs, everything, switches, digital, everything. It looked just the color, you know. She's like, oh, well, you know, because we couldn't get them from normally from China or wherever. These ones came from Mexico. And I'm like, they're not the same. Don't tell me they're the same. I can tell. I know what I know what crayons, I know red from blue. They're different color. They're not the same. And now you just admitted to me finally that one, we had to buy them from Mexico because of the cough syndrome going on. And I'm thinking, great. So now what do I do? Like, are you going to run them out to me? No. I got to go drive, an hour and 45 minutes one way to come to your place to get these fixed. Because I promised this lady I'd get this thing fixed before the holidays because heaven forbid, you know, the holidays come and people come up and look at their houses. You know what I mean? So, and it's like, something's just so small can stop a whole operation. And that's why I always think about like with the doors and stuff when they got rid of the ATS. I'm like, the ATS was my last baby with mechanical limits that I would modify with a 7-foot rail that's made for commercial, rails, but they'd fit on them. I'd modify them, make them work because that was my last one for the Amish. When I go there, I could run it off a generator. I could unplug it. I guarantee if I come back in 10 years, I plug this puppy in, it's going to have the same limits. No questions asked. Unless they got a little funky on the silver limits. You guys know I know if you're seasoned vets. Oh, should I be paying a good tech per hour? Ooh, that Mark, that's a good that depends on your area. Probably nowadays anywhere from, 20 to $30. It just that's kind of the world we're living in. And it's I don't want it's not bad for employees. Employees, it's good, right? But what's really being crummy about this whole thing is across the whole stuff, all I kept hearing was 15, 15, 15, 15. Everything needs to be 15. It's funny because I think in Michigan, we're still not even up to 15 for minimum wage, right? But I go to, if you go to McDonald's, Burger King, all that kind of stuff, right? They're getting 15 basically, right? Or maybe a fuzz more. And the service is horrendous. And I'm all about, like I said, if service is phenomenal, work, it's just so manipulated. And what most people don't know about the businesses and stuff like that is that we are all, including myself, held hostage to the federal government. Yep, I said it. And it's a shame because everything, the school systems, everything is controlled. And that's the problem that I have, that you have, or you're gonna have if you start trying to, it's like you go out into this stuff, right? And you're just like, oh, and then it's like you get neutered. You're like, oh, oh, oh. Because for right now, I could tell you what would drop a lot of this stuff if they got rid of so much of this welfare, whatever, right? And let it go back to like free capitalism. Let it go back to the churches. You know what I mean? You got a problem. You're hungry. Yeah, I don't want nobody to go hungry. I went to some place. I remember even it wasn't that long ago. They had so much trash. Oh, I remember what it was. Their basement. It was my buddy's rental, and he said I've taken 3 30-yard dumpsters out of here. He said the basement was full. He says full of dog crap in a bag. The bedrooms had dog crap in them. There's a 2-story, 3-story, I guess, if you include the basement. And he's like, look at the backyard. I looked at the yard, and I mean, he's already taken two 30-yard dumpsters out of here so far. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you? And I thought, what pure laziness. Like I just saw it. And they were a Section 8, whatever, right? And I think they did it towards the end, but I just saw it. I just saw it. If somebody's living like this, all they got to do is ask. If they asked, even somebody like myself, if somebody's in desperate need, I would let them use our dumpster at the shop. I say, hey, help yourself. Don't steal nothing, but help yourself. Throw a few bags in there a week or whatever, right? But that is like pure laziness, and that's what people don't understand. I mean, I've had guys that work for me. That one guy is on Section 8, I remember, and he's never going to plan on getting off of it, and it leaves him such a lower class. And all he needs to do is make $50 a month to cover his rent portion, and a few dollars to go to the pool, or not the pool, but to the bar where he plays pool. All he cares about is pool stick. He gets gets a ride around most time from his mommy. And this guy he's as fit as I am. He's taller. I'd even say he's probably a little more handsome, but he will not come off like he just will not. It just keeps him hostage. And it's sad because you and me, we're out busting our heinies, and you got this guy that's just milking it and we're paying for it. And it's just really sad. It's really sad because I need affordable workers. You need affordable workers, and we need good workers. I mean, we need people that are, there's a whole ecosystem to this stuff, and we're missing the ecosystem. You know what I mean? That's why, you think about these factories, right? You think about a factory. You got that guy that mops, right? And then maybe the guy that mops, he moves up. He moves up. Now he's running a machine, right? And eventually, a couple of years later, he's good enough. Now he's supervising the guys on the floor. Maybe he moves up a little more, right? And that's as far as he goes, right? There's a whole ecosystem. We're missing our ecosystem. Our ecosystem is so messed up, and it's a real bummer because it just puts such a burden on the system, on us, because we're trying, and it's you realize what you're up against sometimes, and it's very disheartening, what they're doing, and it could be both sides. It could be the D's, it could be the R's. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't believe any of them until I see them face to face and see change. Action speaks louder than words. So paying, like I said, there's just all kinds of they can go all different ways. Tony says 22. Yep. No insurance. Insurance is expensive, man. I've done insurance, and then the guys, some guys want it, some don't. And then I still remember. I mean, like here's a perfect example. This is how screwed up things are. When Mr. when Mr. Obama was in office, right? He came on national TV and everything, right? And he's preaching how he wants everybody in America to have insurance, right? And I'm on board, right? I'm on board. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, that's a great, like, that's awesome. Like, I agree. Like, I want everybody to have insurance too. Like, I want everything. I want people to have dentists. I mean, they're not going to probably do that, but at least some kind of health insurance. Excellent. Great. Let's do it. Let's do it. So some time goes on. They're doing it, right? Well, we started developing, I can't remember all the quirks to it, but basically they were having like free insurance through us in a sense, right? So we were using that system of some sort where it's like, and all of a sudden my accountant tells me, he goes, hey, you can't be doing that. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, you're using pre-tax dollars, so if you want to give them like a bonus, you can do that, but it has to be taxed. And I'm like, wait, no, what are you talking about? Like, what we're doing is fine. Like, the president came on TV and told he wants everybody. You know what I mean? And then they are penalizing you. Obviously, if you didn't get it, you had to pay a certain amount. And so it's like you're starting to realize, you're like, this is a bunch of crap, man. Like, this ain't right. And then more than likely, you know how it goes anyways, because some of the people would get it, whatever, or use it, and then it's like not as good, it's crappy. So it's always about, everything is always about getting in your pocket and getting money, and either, enslaving you or taxing you. That's just how it is. And they're the best landlords. Like I said, nobody ever thinks about property taxes. Everything has property taxes pretty much, right? Except for, maybe you guys didn't know this. I'm starting to learn this. But did you know that if you get buried, it's not illegal to get buried on your own property? But if you get buried on your own property, that property turns into a tax-free entity. I'm looking into it. That's great. I've also heard like the churches, right? If you the Amish do it, supposedly. Like I said, not a financial tax advisor or anybody. I'm just learning. I'm a student of things I wasn't taught in school. But like they use their house, they switch. They use their house as a church, and that's how they don't have to pay supposedly property tax. I don't know, maybe it's federal. I don't know how much tax, but it grinds me that how much we, so I'm like, I kind of follow like I'll follow like Elvis. I look at that whole thing because like maybe it relates, maybe it don't, but like paparazzi never even existed to me until I started doing business and I realized like, oh my gosh, like people are just always like, I'd have so many people come over to the house that were unannounced. Um, it's just amazing to watch what this man has to do and in public and how like everything kind of correlates with like presidents and actors and everything. And even in yourself, your own life, you can learn things. So it's it's very tough. Um, and it's sad because once you start if you start making wealth, you start becoming a target as well. So you have to these are just things you learn, with experience and time and being burned, and it's kind of fun but kind of not fun. I mean, so yeah. What is what's like the okay, it says 22, it says what's Mr. 20 says that's like the manual adjustments on operators. Why would you change it? It works. It's kind of like I always remember the guy, he was an old guy, he retired now through LiftMatch. He was a sales rep. I think his name was Dennis. I think it was Dennis. He was a cool, grumpy old dude. I finally got in with him, right? Finally we got permission to buy from LiftMaster or whatever. And I remember him always telling me about those gear kits, and he's like he was like almost promoting. He's like, that's why they kind of break the way they do, he's like, because it gives you service calls. But he says you also know why they haven't changed it. And I'm like, well, and he goes, because it works. And I was like, okay, I agree with that. Because you get, whatever, 10, 15, 20 years out of a gear kit, out of an old, gear driven, opener. And they are pretty nice because typically that one worm gear you don't have to replace, right? That's a harder plastic. So it works good. You just change out the whole assembly, which works out nice. But like I said, it's like when you call these guys and then I'm like, okay, well, here's the, I'm running it off a generator. Oh, that's the problem. You can't run it off a generator. And I'm like, well, well, I mean, what am I supposed to do? We ain't got no power here. I don't want to come back. Like, have you guys not thought about this? Like, what's my option then at least? And that's what ticks me off the most. I go, it's like with the ATS, right? Oh, we're going to get, keep the darn thing. What's the problem? What, they cost too much money? Tell me what the price is. You want another $60? I'll pay it. You want another $100? I will pay it. You know what I mean? You want to send me openers with light bulbs? How much? Another $20? I will pay it. You know what I mean? Like instead it's like, well, we're competing with, the other brand or this person, and we have to keep just going down to we're at the bottom and this stuff is junk. I mean, it's like wash machines and dryers, right? You go to the store and people are just so unaware. And I was one of them too at one time where it's like, you're buying junk. I mean, you're buying something that's going to last maybe 5, 8 years. And if you want the good stuff, I mean, to me, it's almost like you think about it, like think about like gasoline, right? Gasoline blows my mind because not that long ago, right? They had the E85, right? That was the big thing. And I was kind of on board too. I was younger, I was dumber. And I was like, oh, 85. Oh man, I got to get me a car that's got E85. Man, look at that. It's like $2 versus $4. This is amazing. And then you start realizing you're like, oh, you only get half the gas mileage. Wait a minute. Well, it's just half the price. I get half the gas mileage. What the hell? Like, what's the point of that? Well, and plus it's got more alcohol. So it's harder on the system, the rubber lines and that brake. Well, mechanics aren't cheap. What? So like I always look at it like this, right? You get the wreck fuel or you get the unethanol fuel, right? And that stuff is expensive, right? It's like, I don't know, around here it's probably around about $5 or $6 a gallon. So technically, really, we should be paying that, but we're kind of dummies and we pay the other gas, right? And but it's cheaper, but they dilute it more. Does that make sense? Like I just look at this stuff and I go, like, I'm willing to pay for quality, but if you're not educated on it and you don't know about it, I mean, it's just how can these guys, like, how could Amar promote Pella in a garage door? How could they? When you get a garage door, it doesn't have no windows in it, and they still give you a sticker that says, "We want you to put this on here." It says Pella. How is that not false advertising? It's not a Pella. It's an Amar door. It's a right built. It's like it's kind of like these John Deeres, that they sell at Lowe's and stuff like that. They're not the real John Deeres. They're like basically assembled, I think, by MTD. But if you want a real John Deere, you got to go to a dealership to get one with a frame and better mower deck. I mean, we're in the same boat, right? I mean, you want a better opener, you got to go through a dealer, right? You got to get solid rail. I mean, but it just blows my mind how the consumer gets kind of screwed over, I guess. Uh oh, I love it. I love it. Tony says, Mark, can I come work for you? Yeah, me too. Me too. Can I get 22 cash? Oh, people would get out and work then. That's what I always kept telling everybody. I said, look, I said, if they would get rid of so much of this money they pump in the system, we would have people coming down the road of Apple Avenue where Affordable Door and Gate is, knocking on the door. Hey, is there anything I can do today? Do you need leaves cleaned up? Do you need, can I ride along? I'm hungry. I'm desperate. But there's just too many handouts. There really is. And that's why for you as a business owner or starting out or whatever, it's so darn stinking hard because now you got to elevate to your prices and everything, right? And if you don't, especially you guys that are starting out, you don't have the reputation, you don't have the commercial, you don't have, I guess that's why I was working on whatever 14 hours a day, working Saturday, Sunday, because you need that $300, on the weekend, to help offset for the tires and for the workers and stuff. I mean, there's so much money this stuff costs. And by the time you start getting an accountant and then you start dealing with, the byproducts of things, secretary, the job or QuickBooks, it just starts really, and you, like I said, you're dealing with so many variables, kind of like Tim was saying, like, what do I charge? Whatever you need to charge to eat, and whatever you need to charge for whatever you can get the job, land the job. You can start eventually going, hey, I can't do nothing under 20% and kick it to the curb, and that's fine. You know what I mean? And you just move on. Sometimes it's not bad. Sometimes it's more about opening up the funnel, right? Get that phone to ring, and that way you can sift through, the good to the bad. You know what I mean? Like, we're not doing this, and sometimes you can start becoming like an expert in what you do, and focus on that. Like I said, if you want to make some money, like I still after hours and weekend, I could darn near make what I made in a week, and sometimes on the weekends because nobody's answering the phone. Sucks though, right? Because you're losing out on time with your friends, your family. You want to go on the boat, you want to go fishing, whatever, you know. But you can start paying somebody; they kind of feel the same way. Well, they want to get paid more because they're working on the weekend, So you can do it though, and then you can use that money to put in the business and help things. They want us divided. Heck yeah, they want us divided. That's like the race card. We don't need nobody's alive anymore. That's part of the race. You know what I mean? Like they need to quit talking about the crap. I don't care what color you are, as long as you're a good person. You know, as long as you're trying to, take care of your family and you're not crapping on my yard. I don't know what's going to happen, but like I said, we gotta get something. You know, what's up, Mister Sky Overhead? Cheers. That's how I feel tonight. I'm revved up, man. I'm telling you. I'm sick of this crap they're throwing down our throat. I'm sick of it because it's wrong. We can do better. We can do better. Like I said, I probably have to jump on the old YouTube tonight, check out some of the information, what's going on out there for the corruptness. I'm still trying to figure out how this is going to land with the whole, you know, election coming up. Like I said, we're in that lame duck year. That's how I look at it. So this is the year I look at it. It's like you take what you can get, not going hog wild in something. You know what I mean? It's just going to be kind of staying idle. It's probably isn't, the year to be out, going and purchasing that new truck. doing anything crazy. Just take your money, kind of stash it right now, keep playing with it, do a little bit of investing, but have some saved up because, especially if you guys, if you're hardcore in the resis, like I said, if the '06, '07, '08 comes back around, man, residential just dries right up. It just goes bye bye because, like I said, all it takes is most of those people that watch that television. That television is the worst, I think, because the reporters on there, they don't. It's always weird to me. Still, I've thought about this. Is that it's funny that even if you watch like Fox, they still never tell you how to fix the problem. You know, like they never tell you, hey, you should meet here. This is the number you need to contact for your area. Like I said, we always got the divide, right? We always kind of got the whole, they're doing this, well, they're doing this, and they're doing that. And it's like, okay, what are we doing? What are we going to do to fix this? I can't believe as society, we've been around for how many revolutions, in years, decades, millennial centuries, whatever. And this is where we're at. Like, I mean, this is some BS, man. Like, I go, I just cannot believe. But if they keep just feeding you the Kool-Aid and they keep giving you, some stimmy money and some, money on a card or whatever it is, oh yeah, who are you going to vote for? You're going to vote for somebody that just keeps giving you a handout. And unfortunately, it's going to make us hard. It makes it hard for me, everybody, because it's hard to find, cheaper labor and everything. And they don't want to work. Some of them, like I said, you need that food chain. You need those guys to come out that will do the rake and the leave. So the guy that's raking the leave, that's actually a guy that can be a tech, that can drive a truck, work on the doors, can move up. You know, uh, we need saturation is what we need. We need some saturation. So where's everybody at? If anybody's still on here, we got 11. Where are you guys at? Who's out? Name the state. Let me know what state you're in. We just had somebody from New York reach out, and they were, like I said, they were asking a question. I know who it was. I just got a text from Cap, and he's like, "Yeah, oh, well, did you looky there? I already got somebody that says I put a door on the old Facebook, right? And this is not hit in a while. Facebook is really weird. It says, how much do you charge to install a garage door? That seems like a weird question. I feel like I would have already had that on there. So this is one of those things. But the problem is I had one that popped up and um they were too far away. I told him, I was like, price is gonna be a little high. Of course he deads me. Says, what's Mr. Tanner say? Sorry to say anything. Wayne Dalton is junk. Oh, Tanner, you hurt my feelings. I'm just joking. Oh man. Ah, yeah, who was it that was just saying something about, they're like half of what they say, with the Torque Masters. I've taken quite a few. The Torque Master has a place though. If you ever get into a weird headroom situation, they fit a little bit tighter. I think they only need like 10.5 inches versus everything else is 12.5 or whatever. But they are not the best. I agree. But you know what I do like about sometimes Torque Master? I like that it was a sealed unit because I've had some customers that they're kind of in a weird environment. Like, how you just know when you go in there? Like everything to me is like in the moment. Like I know when I go in there and it's like something feels off. And then it's like, it's like that hair dryer, right? Not the hair dryer, but the dryer vent is sticking out the door or the wall, or things are really rusty in here. What is going on? And that's the only thing I liked, where I was like, this is a sealed unit. So typically, they don't have to worry about oil in it, because I know Mrs. Little Janny here, she's not gonna do it. So there's some caveat, but Wayne Dalton, yeah, they got some issues. Wayne Dalton can kind of come in and fill the blanks for some of the stuff. But like I said, they all got their weird, it's kind of like Ideal, that's kind of Clopay, Mid American Door, all those ones, right? It just, you have to feel what works for you. What worked for me for a long time is I was doing a lot of the 9,000 series doors, and the price point was beautiful. So good profit margins, fast install, packaging was pretty good. Um, you didn't have to put all the hinges on and stuff like that, so it saved time. So they're really fast. Um, but trust me, they got their own problems. You know what I mean. But it just all depends on what kind of customer you're dealing with. And that's why most time when I walk into jobs now, I just ask the customer. I go, "What are you doing with the place? What are you doing? You gonna live here forever?" Are you flipping this? Are is this going to be a rental? Is this going to be your kid's house? And as soon as they tell me that stuff, I just put it in perspective. I go, okay, it's your forever house. All right, well, let's get you something nice. Let's get you a nice, solid 2-inch door. Let's get you a steel back, whatever, a few struts on this puppy, 2 torsion springs. Let's get you something nice, nice rollers. If they're like, I'm flipping it next week, you're like, all right, where's that Wayne Dalton 9,000 series door? That'll get her. Or if they want to design, the 9,000 was always good for design. You know, um, they're kind of light, they kind of work, but they're like I said, that's right, Tony. Trump, Trump, he might turn into the old Kennedy. I don't know. I don't know, man. Let's hope. Let's pray not. But weather coming for, yeah, we got some crappy weather, Rich. We got what is it like? Today was 65. Beautiful. Beautiful. And now it's gonna be like, I think maybe a high of 17 or something tomorrow degrees. Just insane, man. The weather. I don't know if it's because the old Uncle Sam keeps playing with weather. You see all that cloud seed. That stuff's be coming out more, how they're spraying stuff in the skies. I have no doubt about all that stuff. I mean, they're really, I don't think there's anything anybody could tell me anymore that I wouldn't believe. I mean, it all, I don't know. Like I said, it's just getting goofy, you know? It's like now they don't even try to, it seemed like back in the day stuff was more hidden kind of in the back door, or in the closet, I mean. And then nowadays it's like everything's just like we're just like they're laughing at us in our face. Got to plant a garden this year. This year it's got to be a more robust garden. We've done a little bit. The wife does most of it, but need to definitely worry about what we're putting into our we need to worry about what we are putting into our body. So you always got to remember, you might have never heard this before. So Uncle Dave's going to tell you. Think about it. Think about if you could only have one car, right? Any car you want, but only one car for the rest of your life. You take good care of it, right? Well, you got to always remember your body is the same way. You only get one body. We only get one set of teeth. We only get, the ears, fingers. That's why guys, a lot of email me. I always tell you, keep your fingers, don't put your fingers where they don't belong. Because I know 2 techs that worked and they both lost a pinky right here, right on a pulley on a gate operator. But most of you guys don't do gate operator, I don't think, so you don't have to worry about it. Rolled right around in that puppy and pop that pinky right off in a belt. Do. New, yeah. How much? Says how much gold? We're at in Indiana. Oh, gotcha. Good old Indiana, man. We got a few doors down that way. Fort Wayne. Nice. We're up here on a peninsula. That's one thing I always remember. Was it Gradco? I don't ever say it right. Gradco, before it was Horman. We were working with them, and I remember the guy always said, you know what? He said, one problem up here. He says, you guys are up on a peninsula. And he says, it's hard to get stuff up, And I always think about that with all kinds of other businesses. Like, yeah, we're on a peninsula, so I get people are like, these are hard to find or this, that. I'm like, well, they gotta ship it. I mean, we're not in like Kentucky and all the travel through ones, it's like it's a bear. Uh for a oh no, mini storage roll up. Ooh, boy, that's a good one for the guys, man. Like Tony, Rich, Tanner. He might what would you guys use for a what would you use for a mini storage roll up door? I've gotten burned on them too many times, man. I'm telling you what. I've I don't like putting openers on storage unit doors. And here I'll tell you a little story on it. And I'll probably bust out of here unless you guys got any other questions. So I did one. I remember when I was green, I bought one. I didn't there's there's like rolling steel doors and then there's like roll up door, right? That was the terminology. So I just said I need a roll up door. Excuse me. So this was it was like a 12 by 12. It was a bigger door. It was for inside of a building, a commercial building, not a it was a tool and die shop. Not it was they were just starting out, so it wasn't real big. But the guy didn't want, the tracks. So when the high low or something came through, they'd hit it. Totally understandable. So I order this door. It comes in. And as soon as I see it, I'm like, oh, I'm like, it's a storage unit door. I'm like, it ain't like I'm thinking heavy duty roll up door. I'm like, all right, whatever, no big deal, right? So I install it. Well, it's got a hollow shaft. That's the problem, right? Because then I had an MT lift master to put on it. So luckily it's a machine shop. So I had to mill me out a shaft to stick in there and pin it. Well, that thing started howling out and it just started going wonky and it didn't last, right? So I kept having to go back there, basically do free service calls for life for this thing, right? Because I knew I screwed up. So we worked on it. Well, then what started happening is because the door would come down and the limits were not real fine, not real tuned real good. It pushed on the door, right? And he wanted it to seal so they didn't have a draft through there and stuff. Keep, that was kind of a cold area. This was kind of the work area. Well, it started delaminating the door because I'm putting it down because those things are like a kind of like a I don't know how to explain it, tongue and groove, not really tongue and groove, like a they overlap. So every time that door was getting pushed down, it was delaminating the door. So the door had like a buckle in it when I got there. And I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, what the? So I'm like, what am I supposed to? I can't put screws in it because it rolls up. So I pop riveted it. And then I think like bought the smallest ones, ground it, whatever. Basically, it's a temporary fix, right? So I'm talking to the owner. And of course, this job was a nightmare, man. I ordered the doors originally, and then he changed his mind, and I was chicken shit I didn't want to tell him, right? So I ordered sectional doors, and he didn't want that. Like halfway through, he's like, "Can we change it to a roll-up door?" And I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "Okay." So now I got this door, right? It's like $1,400 or whatever it is at time. Sandwich door. I can't sit on this thing, so I sell the door like a quick sale. You know what I mean? Like I sold it for half the price, whatever. Just got rid of it. So now, a few years go by, whatever. He decides now, he's like, man, this door's falling apart. He's like, we got to put a sectional door in here. And I'm like, yeah, like I agree. Like we should have done that originally. And I already sold the other door and now the price is. So, anyways, that job was a nightmare. Then we had one for a homeowner that was a little bit north and we couldn't get the calculations right on that darn thing for the house. The speed was, even though we told the vendor what we wanted. We wanted a storage unit door because it kept the cost down, and then we wanted an opener for it. And supposedly this was a different model. I believe it was a Lift Master, and that stupid thing didn't work right. So I think it's still at the shop. It's geared to be like really low or something. I don't know. It's a nightmare. But storage unit doors and openers just don't fly. Typically, chain fall is the best way to go. I don't try to put openers on them because I won't even do them. I just won't even do them. It says he says I use the easy roller, but I'm getting to try the lift master. Yeah, I mean, hey, that works, man. Try it. Like I said, for us, I don't have no options on them because I don't even deal with them anymore because I just the roll up doors we've had a few people try and they turned out horrible. But anywho, you guys, I've kept you long enough. I really appreciate you guys being here. Like I said, don't forget if you guys got any questions about business related, Tim, I appreciate it. I really do. I'm sorry that I can't be more help, um, in that department on the pricing. But like I said, you got anything, shoot me an email to daveadubson@gmail.com. I put it in the description below. And, like I said, shoot me an email. If you got anything, questions, throw them in the comments. I love hearing what you guys got going. I love trying to help you out, tell you some of the stories and some of the battle wounds and all that grand stuff. And seeing what you guys got going too is always fun. So, all right, guys, take care. See you on the next one, and keep your fingers.